It is week number 2 of high school football across the state of Kansas, and welcome to Kansas Football Friday. I'm your host, Leon Liebel. This being presented, of course, by Sports in Kansas, and I'll be joined by the founder and the CEO, the mastermind of Sports in Kansas. There he is, sliding in like Chris Collinsworth right there. Is Chet Copeland. Chet, how you doing? Week number 2, here we are.
Doing great. It's great to have a sense of reality with the Kansas City Chiefs playing last night, and of course, Kansas Football Friday for the second consecutive week. So we actually are going to get to talk about some wins last week and some wins tonight, some losses, some things that we didn't expect, some things that we expected. But I'm happy to be here for a week number 2 here on Kansas Football Friday, and excited to go into some games, some live games tonight. So stay right here. Keep updated with everything going on at Sports in Kansas. If you have something tonight, be sure to tweet us. I'll put out some hashtags and thanks for that. We'll be sharing some photos, things like that, and Scores in Kansas, all the live scores coming across the state. So the weird thing tonight, Leon, is there's some games happening that we didn't even expect to happen, some last-minute games. We have people looking for games this morning, yesterday afternoon. It's been wild. So the good thing is we're playing football.
Yeah, it is. And again, we're talking sports day to day. Well, we are week to week when it comes to high school football, and we're picking up some momentum. Again, more teams playing tonight. The Wichita City League back in action this weekend. Of course, originally their games were wiped out. The school board revisited their decision and reversed their decision, and so some of the Wichita City League schools will be back in action. Again, we're going to be checking on live action across the state of Kansas tonight. We'll have scores and much more. We want to hear from you, too. And again, hashtag Kansas Fan Shout. Also, if you got some pictures at a game, hashtag Kansas or KS Fan Camp, KS Fan Camp, and the other one again, hashtag KS Fan Shout. As we'd love to hear your comments, what's going on across the state of Kansas on this, again, week number 2. And one thing, Chet, it feels like football. At least the weather's cooperating with a little football nip in the air tonight. So your impressions of week number 1, by the way, let's go back a little bit last week.
Yeah, I think that the game that really a lot of people are talking about in the state of Kansas, Leon, is the Derby Panthers versus Mill Valley last week. I don't think a lot of people saw Mill Valley putting it on Derby like they did in that manner. A great, first game out of the gate for them, and ending a long winning streak there for Derby, I believe 26 games or whatever that it was. Joel Appleby, of course, the cousin of Brandon Clark, that really stood out to me. The other one that stood out to me, 17 miles from the Colorado border, Goodland coaches are in quarantine, Leon. And how about this? The athletic director and administrators and junior high coaches coached them all week. And 3A Goodland beats 5A Liberal. Liberal, once a powerhouse in the 1990s. They beat them with their coaches in quarantine last week. So there are some storylines out there. We see teams all across the state making do with what they have. There were some scores last week that were a little bit questionable whenever you look at it, because some schools may have 5 or 6 guys out because of starters, things like that. So that stood out to me. Transfers stood out to me as well, Leon. How about Toganoxie defeating Baser Linwood 62-28 last week? Tyler Bowden, the transfer from Lawrence Free State, he had 1,800 yards 1 year ago in 6A. He had 300-plus yards, 325 yards, 5 touchdowns in his debut for the Chieftains as they defeated Baser Linwood. And how about transfer linebacker, a 3-year, or actually he was going to be a 4-year starter for Piper, an all-state wrestler going for 500 career tackles. He transfers over to Tongi as well, and he had 10 stops. So all of a sudden, a lot of these teams across the state have some new players because the uncertainty coming into the year. So there's a lot of that. And there's going to be a lot of that all year. And we highlighted one of those games last week in Class 3A that, kind of stood out to me. And going into that was Perry Lecompton and going all over Jefferson West from 1 week ago. Chapman, in a very impressive victory a week ago. And, of course, they beat Sabetha, a team that won state just a couple of years ago, back-to-back state titles. And we'll actually be on that on the screen right now in your right-hand corner, lower corner. That is Holton versus Chapman. That's going to be one of the premier games where we actually have cameras at tonight. Holton up 6-0, kicking the extra point here. If you remember, last week Holton kicks a field goal to win the game over defending state champion in 2A Nemaha Central, as that's no good, 6-0 early in the first quarter there. So that's a game we definitely have our eye on. The quarterback play for Chapman and Trevor Erickson. He is a very good player, a military kid, and we have a lot of good players in that area at quarterback in Manhattan, Junction City, and Chapman. So keep your eye on that game as well. Another game that we have on the screen right now, Leon, in the top right corner, Girard and Pratt, and that's at Butler Community College. Those schools do have very nice facilities. Girard, Mammoth Sports Construction Facility, and Pratt, a very nice facility. Leon, this game was not supposed to happen. Pratt, in fact, had Lions. Lions is in quarantine. Girard had Baxter Springs. Baxter Springs canceled. They did not have a game as of late Wednesday night. They pieced this together kind of in the last-minute effort, and here we are. They're playing at Butler Community College. These two schools are 3 hours and 40 minutes away from each other. I believe Pratt is about 2 hours from El Dorado, and I believe it's about an hour and 40 minutes or so, or maybe vice versa, from Girard to get to El Dorado. So here they are, the midway point, getting in a game instead of saying, hey, we're not playing tonight. So shout out to those administrators, those coaches, those people behind the scenes for making this happen, because there's going to be some makeshift stuff that's going to go on. And also shout out to Girard Sports Live for this feed, and our buddy BJ Harris of the Shrine Bowl, and also one of our title sponsors at Sports in Kansas, Croccan, presenting this feed and stuff that you'll see all night. So there's a lot of cool storylines across the state. Games wouldn't happen, and that's one of them happening right now.
Yeah, I want to go back to that game in El Dorado at Butler County or Butler Community College, and it's at a terrific facility, B&G Product Stadium. If you've never been there, it's one of the top facilities in the state of Kansas. So it's great that Girard and Pratt are both playing there. And I just noticed, Chet, both teams wearing their home uniforms tonight. No road whites. Hope that doesn't get too confusing. It looks like Girard with the maroon, and of course Pratt, the greenbacks in the green, all green. So kind of interesting, I thought.
Yeah, and both teams were supposed to play at home tonight as well. So Girard was supposed to have their senior night tonight, and that's why they're doing that. But, of course, didn't get to open up their home season. Girard got a big win a week ago on Thursday against St. Mary's Colgan to open up their season. So they're kind of one of the surprise teams in Southeast Kansas. As we go to Southeast Kansas again here as well, this should be an outstanding game. Thanks to ESPN 1007.com. I do a show here 5 days a week in Pittsburgh. So shout out to Mike Snow for letting us use this feed, as well as Croccan, your community technology partner. The Pittsburgh Purple Dragons in the all-white against the Chanute Blue Comets here. This should be an outstanding matchup out of the Southeast Kansas League.
And again, that's the game you're seeing right now. We'll also be checking in on Hayes High at Great Bend. That's in your upper left. There it is. And the Hayes High Indians on top. There's that 8-0. They got an early touchdown, and they have some outstanding players in this game tonight. You touched on these guys last week. Would they have maybe 3 Division I players?
Yeah, Leon, and they could have more than that as well. You see the kid playing quarterback in the Dryland kid. He's committed to Tennessee for baseball. He's their 4th Division I guy, so he's a baseball Division I commit. And then, of course, you look at the wide receiver, Jaron Canick. He's a 10-6 speed guy. He is just a junior. You'll see him a lot tonight. He had a big night 1 week ago in the Thursday win, 8 days ago actually, against Goddard Eisenhower. And then on top of that, you look at their defense. Gavin Hazelhorst is committed to Kansas State. And then you have a linebacker that's also a junior that'll be one of the best 3-sport athletes in Kansas, Gavin Myers. So you have 3 Hayes High Indians right now that have FBS full ride football offers. 2 are juniors, 1 are seniors, 2 are Gavins. And, of course, you look at the other kid that's a junior as well. He's going to Tennessee for baseball. Plus they have a 6'7", 230-pound tight end DN named Trey Adams. So it doesn't stop at those guys. Hayes has some serious expectations this year.
And by the way, that is a WAC, Western Athletic Conference matchup, Hayes at Great Bend. Hayes, the only team to win last week, the opening week. Liberal, Dodge City, Great Bend all lost. That's the first time in the history of the Western Athletic Conference only one team has won a game during a week. That's kind of amazing. As we were also checking in on, well, there we are again with Great Bend. Hayes is the Hayes High Indians, yes, up 8-0. They scored on their opening drive in the all-white. We check back into El Dorado. Girard and Pratt, neutral site game. We just talked about this, meeting halfway, and I think Girard just scored here to tie the game. No, Pratt just scored to take the lead 13-7. Not sure we just caught the tail end of that one, but they just scored a touchdown, and pending the extra point, we'll try to go up 14-7. Again, that game in El Dorado. Back to Great Bend as Hayes in the all-white trying to move against Great Bend. Tough opener for the Panthers of Great Bend last week. They lost big. Hey, going back to that Goodland Liberal game, and the coaches in quarantine. It was the athletic director and the superintendent at Goodland that took over on the sidelines and won that game. You think they were bragging a little bit this week?
Oh, absolutely. And one of those things that you just don't see a whole lot, but never say never. We're covering games wearing masks and temperature checks, and you got to do what you got to do. It's 2020, and I think that says a lot about the administrators, the coaches, the teachers. There's a lot of people behind the scenes, and there's a lot of people to point things out and complain that, virtual learning is not what we signed up for. This is what we don't want, and this, and that. I understand that we're in unfortunate situation, but we have to give a shout out, as I mentioned, to a lot of people out there, these people that are administrators, coaches, and they care about the kids. They're making things work in double duty and doing things that maybe they normally wouldn't do just to give these kids an opportunity. So really, really cool to see.
And the Hayes High Indians on their way, moving the ball. There's the touchdown, Hayes. Just like that, the Indians go up 14-0, I believe. Yes, it was with that touchdown. I'm still trying to check out. That is 8-0. Am I right? And our producer director Mike Nelson in the control room. My eyes a little not quite seeing that graphic there. So did he? Was that a touchdown or did he go out of bounds?
It is a touchdown,
yes,
and I believe Jordan Dell on the carry there for Hayes, number 8, a junior that plays a little bit of wide receiver and quarterback, both for Hayes High to put them up 14-0, pending an extra point to make it 15-0 here early, and it looks like a very high kick.
Wow.
For Hayes High there. Great Bend, lost so much talent from last year, Leon. We look at Alex Schremer from last year, Dalton Miller, who was the Shrine Bowl MVP on the west side of things. Great Bend's had some really good offensive players under Aaron Beck here in recent memory, and right now just didn't really return a lot. I do Great Bend radio out there with Cole Reif each and every Friday and talk a lot about their program, so definitely missing some pieces. As we go to the Holton game here, Leon, 3-4 yards of carry, that's what they're going to do in Holton. You see the bar to bone. The quarterback almost looks like the catcher for the Kansas City Royals, Salvador Perez, that he gets so low. And
how about
that's what
that?
Holton does right there.
He's on his way. Touchdown, Wildcats of Holton, as they'll go up 12-0. How about our timing? We check in twice and we give it 2 touchdowns on 2 different games. As the bar to bone, they call that, huh? That was a great play fake. Nobody knew where the ball was.
And it's been working for a very long time there. That was Cannon Carn, the 6'1", 210-pound senior, a very good player for Holton. And on to kick the extra point, Matt Lears, who also plays a little bit of quarterback. Holton will put 4 people in the backfield, always have a big physical offensive line, of course. All the state titles that they won prior to Brooks Barta, who's won 200-plus games there. I don't even believe they had a playoff win, Leon, all time. So that's how good Brooks Barta has been at Holton. They've made the playoffs basically every year since the mid to late 1990s. It's been incredible there with some state titles. And do keep in mind, this new 3A is a little bit different. Back in the day when Holton's winning state titles in 03, 05, 2012, they're one of the smallest 4A schools in the entire state of Kansas doing what they do. Of course, Brooks Barta, where did he learn all that? He learned that from the great Roger Barta. And where's Roger Barta from? Leon Smith Center.
Smith Center, a former coach at Waukene as well. I have a good friend from Waukene. He played for Roger Barta, and he always says nobody remembers him here, but he did start out at Waukene. But Roger Barta, one of the legendary coaches in the history of the state of Kansas, his son Brooks Barta, and Brooks not only a great football coach, he was a great football player himself, and went on to K-State and had an outstanding career in the early years of Bill Snyder. And his son now is at a Wildcat. So the Barta family continues its dynasty in the state of Kansas.
Yeah, Mason Barta is a starting fullback for the Kansas State Wildcats right now. He'll start tomorrow. Him and the Deneen kid out of Free State are both going to see reps at the fullback position. And not too long ago, we were covering him in the Shrine Bowl and covering him at Holton. And, of course, as we go to the screen, PHS, Pittsburgh High, and Chanute still scoreless there right now. So Girard, of course, the top right-hand corner of the screen, they really ran the option very well last week against Colgan. Caden Walleman is their quarterback. Keep an eye on him. Another player to keep an eye on for Girard is number 4, Connor Oliveira, a very good, speedy player that can play a little bit of everything, receiver, running back type, and Girard's got a pretty big physical line up front. Pratt, many people think they may have dropped off a little bit. They still play in the Central Kansas League, very good football. They lost to Hoisington a week ago, and not too long ago, Pratt's playing for a state title and, of course, winning a state title. They had the great Travis Tice. It seemed like he was around there forever.
And Travis Tice, refresh my memory, where did he end up going to college?
South Dakota.
Yeah, that's right. There was a lot of discussion that a lot of people thought maybe some bigger schools should give him a chance. He was an outstanding, just a dynamic football player to watch. Again, we head back to Great Bend where Hayes High is leading the Great Bend Panthers. And going back to that Holton, there it is, Holton leading Chapman. Chapman on the move with a football in the all green. But, you know, it stands out to me in this game, it's a natural grass. You just don't see that much anymore.
And I got to say, around. And I got to say, I don't like natural natural grass because Mammoth Sports Construction, they're my partners. I love them, and they do a lot for us. And we see a lot of those facilities go in across the state. And, yeah, you go to that and you see that sometimes. It almost looks a little weird because everybody's going, of course, to those artificial surfaces. And all joking aside, I still love both kinds of surfaces. But, yeah, you definitely don't see a whole lot of that anymore at really the 4A and above levels. We even see, 2A Rossville just put in a brand new facility with Mammoth Sports Construction as well. So even the smaller schools, we saw that game last week on here, and maybe that was due to Kiowa County. They're the only at the time, Leon, they were the only team in the country that had an 80-yard artificial turf 8-man field.
Wow. Yeah, this does look different, but it's still good to see some natural grass every once in a while. This is, again, the Wildcats against the Fighting Irish of Chapman. Here's a score update as we're talking about the Western Athletic Conference of Hayes and Great Bend. Dodge City Red Demons have just gone up on Liberal 7-0. First time Dodge City has scored this season. They were shut out last week against Capon 42-0. And again, that game, Dodge City and Liberal, that's in the WAC conference. As once again, we're watching Holton at Chapman. The Holton Wildcats leading 12-0, the fourth-ranked team in Class 3A.
And have some other score updates for you across the state. Manhattan leading Junction City in the Silver Trophy game 9-7 in the first quarter. Riverton beating Dewey, or tied with Dewey, Oklahoma 8-8. La Crosse, who is of course playing 8-man football this year, is leading Hoxie 8-0. Mill Valley, who of course beat Derby last week big, their rival DeSoto nearby there, they're winning 7-0. May South 7, Salina South 0, Olathe North 7, Olathe South 0. Russell beating Thomas More Prep 6-0. Baser Linwood 7, Leavenworth 6. A halftime score in the 6-man ranks: Cunningham 42, Deerfield 0, southeast of Saline 6, Beloit 0, Fort Scott. Get this, Leon, this is pretty crazy. Fort Scott 12, Independence nothing. And what's crazy about this, they play next week again. It's a doubleheader for high school football. So we don't often see that. But circumstances this year, that's what we're going to have.
I'm assuming that's a home and home?
Yep, home and home.
I believe Dodge City and Garden City are actually playing each other twice this year, if I got that right. So we're going to see a lot of weird schedule things on this weird year, 2020. But here we are again, week number 2 of high school football in Kansas. And you mentioned the Manhattan Junction City score playing for the Silver Trophy. It looks like the Hayes High Indians just went into the end zone again for another touchdown. And there it is. Boy, the Hayes is really moving the football in this game and finding the end zone early. But back to Manhattan Junction City real quick, because now we see Chapman take it down inside the 10-yard line against Holton. So here come the Fighting Irish after going down 12-0 early, fighting right back. But I want to mention Junction City. We saw them last week in an incredible game at Bishop Carroll. They failed on an extra point attempt, a 2-point extra point attempt, and lost by 1 at Bishop Carroll. A tough loss for the Blue Jays of Junction City, trying to bounce back tonight in that big rivalry game against Manhattan.
As you see, Trevor Erickson here at the quarterback position, number 7, 4.5 speed, an all-state track and field athlete as well. A very versatile player for them. Also had, I believe, 16 or 17 tackles last week defensively. He's a player that should get some MIAA looks. Not a lot of people know about him, Leon, because, of course, he moved from Georgia after his sophomore year. He's a military kid. Of course, Fort Riley, the military base there. But the kid, obviously passed the eye test. You look at him out there about 6'2", 185, 190 pounds. And I know Sabetha had a lot of great things to say about him. So keep an eye on number 7. He should be one of the top 3A players to watch both sides of the football this year.
Again, Holton at Chapman. Chapman with the football, and they're going to throw it here, try to get into the end zone. That ball is picked off in the end zone, and he could go maybe all the way. And there is nobody in front of him, and that is going to be an incredible pick six, I believe. Well, he's not going to quite make it all the way down inside the 5-2-yard line. And, wow, what a turn of events there for the Chapman Fighting Irish. They were threatening to score. Instead, it's a pick six that goes all the way the other way. And back to Hayes at Great Bend. Every time we check into this game, Hayes is scoring a touchdown. I think an
outstanding interception there by Jake Zeller was the interception for Holton there. Jake Zeller, the safety, 6'1", 170-pound junior, making the big play for Holton there. And then we go to the other screen, and it was number 8 there as well. So 2 number 8s nearly scoring back-to-back there. Gerard and Pratt at the top of the screen, as you can see, tied 13-13 with 3:25 remaining. There from Girard Sports Live at BG Products Stadium, which that was the host of the Shrine Bowl a few years ago. We talked about how beautiful a facility that is, but El Dorado High School plays there as well as, of course, Butler Community College, and El Dorado High School was on the road tonight, and Butler Community College, Leon, not playing until the fall.
Yeah, that's an empty stadium tonight, or this week, or this year on Saturday nights, and that's a tough one for the folks in El Dorado because they love their Grizzlies, one of the top junior college football programs in America. I was fortunate to call some of their games last fall. Good friend of mine, Dennis Higgins, the voice of the Grizzlies, he used me as his backup voice, and tremendous people and a tremendous program. So Tim Schaffner, the head coach there, and terrific press box as well. We talk about that facility. It may be the best one in the state on that level. As, again, we're watching now, Holton just after that long interception return, trying to capitalize and score here. Almost a pick six. I was a little premature on calling it the pick six, but I thought he kind of ran out of gas there down at the 10-yard line. And give it up for the Fighting Irish players from Chapman as they didn't give up. Hustle down the field to make that tackle.
The quarterback, Kel Purcell here. Look how low that he gets. You don't see this a lot in high school football. I've seen these guys play 4 or 5 times live over the years, and just look at how low he gets to the ground, almost nearly touches the ground.
I noticed that it's almost like you got 4 running backs out of a 3-point stance back there, and Holton bangs it in for the touchdown. So the Wildcats do capitalize on the big turnover. Interception in the end zone. They take it all the way back to the 3-yard line, and from there they score the touchdown to make it 18-0. The extra point coming up.
Connor Tannehill on that touchdown there for Holton. Connor Tannehill is a defensive tackle and running back, so really, that backfield is very powerful with Tannehill back there, number 22, and Cannon Carn, number 32, both 200-plus pounders in the backfield. So Holton's certainly going to be a factor in Class 3A football.
Let's see if they can convert an extra point. They have not in this game, but this time they do. It's good. As the Wildcats now up 19-0. And with that, we're going to take a break. Again, you're watching Kansas Football Friday, presented by Sports in Kansas. We're back after this.
I don't know about you, but I'm glad to be open and back to business. These last few months have been hard on everyone. Here at Lewis Automotive Group, we've always promoted buying local, and now it's more important than ever. As our economy gets up and going, let's protect the people closest to us. Support our local businesses first. Together, we can put all of this behind us quickly while still keeping safety at the forefront. From all of us at Lewis Automotive Group,
be smart, be safe, and buy local.
How do you see the world?
Ha!
At Shriners Hospitals for Children, we know that changing how you see things can turn them into
everyday miracles!
Like riding my bike.
Breaking boards! Ha! Hugging my mom.
Every day for over 90 years, Shriners Hospitals for Children has been sending love to the rescue, regardless of a family's ability to pay.
If you know a child we can help, call or go online now.
Oh, you gotta tell me about that.
The innocence of youth. Is there anything any better? But soon they'll be in high school and facing all the same challenges you faced. How to make friends, how to fit in, how to be cool. We want our children to have everything they'll need to live fulfilling and productive lives. Make sure the kids in your family are among the more than 170,000 participants here in Kansas who take part in high school sports or activities.
And welcome back, everybody. I'm Leon Liebel, along with Chet Coupland, as you're watching Kansas Football Friday, presented by Sports in Kansas. We're checking in live action all across the state, providing scores and so much more tonight here on Kansas Football Friday. And again, we would love to hear from you. As we have a hashtag KS Fan Shout and hashtag KS Fan Cam. If you have some pictures from a game, we'd love to see it. And Chet, one of our feature game tonight is Holton at Chapman. Man, the Wildcats of Holton, they're up early 25-0. Did they score while we were gone? Yes, they just did. And here's the extra point. Oh, man, this one's getting out of hand. Line drive, extra point attempt is good. I didn't quite see it go through, but it counts. As we head back to Great Bend, and the Hayes High Indians all over the Panthers 22-0 in the first quarter, as Hayes has really had its way on offense in this football game. And Chet, I saw this fact from K-Prep from last week. Fewest upsets and highest winning percentage by top 5 ranked teams against non-ranked teams in week 1 in the last 5 years. Does that make sense? Okay, in the last 5 years, it's the fewest upsets by ranked teams or against ranked teams in week number 1. Somebody had to do some research on that one, but I thought that was interesting. Of course, the big surprise, probably not really an upset except for the final score, was Mill Valley over Derby last week, which, by the way, Derby Panthers trying to get back to winning after that 26-game winning streak was stopped at Newton tonight, and Derby leads 7-0 against the Railers.
If you look at number 40 on your screen for the Hayes High Indians, that's Gavin Myers. And, of course, he is very well put together linebacker. He is just a junior there in the middle of the field. Multiple Division I offers, Nebraska, Colorado, Kansas State. And that guy's just a human hit stick and looks the part, 6'2.5", 6'3", 225 pounds already. And then you look at your left edge there, that's a Kansas State commit, Gavin Hazelhorse, who has 4.56 speed at defensive end. And he's only been playing football for about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
They are loaded.
I'd heard early reports on him before he got a lot of attention. They were calling him maybe a project, but boy, he has really progressed in his abilities in a very short time.
Yeah, very good player, and we got to see him at some combines over the summer. In fact, one of their teammates, Jaron Canick, came and ran a 4.4, and within the week, Kansas State and KU had both offered him, and he'll play a lot of receiver. As you see, Pittsburgh High driving here. Cooper Hayden, the sophomore quarterback for the Purple Dragons, have a big offensive line up front as they lead 6-3 here early as they get ready to punch it in against Chanute.
Purple Dragons, again, trying to score. The pitch out to the left side. Not much there, but nice move and nice run into the end zone for the touchdown. Did it on his own. Didn't have a lot of blocking. Looks like he was going to be tackled for a loss, and he gets into the end zone. Touchdown, Pittsburgh.
And Pittsburgh just does a really outstanding job with a lot of multiple sports getting kids to college. I think I added it up. Over the last 3 or 4 years combined, they've produced like 16 or 17 Division I athletes, all the way from cross country to volleyball to track and field to football. I mean, you remember Alex Barnes, of course, at Kansas State. And then on top of that, Trevor Kent is a starting defensive end for Northwestern. Of course, they're not having a season right now, but Pittsburgh High has really placed a lot of guys at the Division I football level. And for that matter, Division II there with Pittsburgh State nearby.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, the Purple Dragons have always had a pretty good, long time, a good football tradition in the state of Kansas. And go back to the Meyer brothers as well. Kerry Meyer, Dylan Meyer, Shad Meyer, played in the NFL. And
absolutely.
A lot of good football in that southeast part of the state. Now, I know you know it very well. And, of course, they have a good – St. Mary's Colgan is a great school down there. And if they could – combined, they would be really, really good. But it's amazing what they've done with multiple schools in a small area.
Yeah, it's incredible. And in fact, my junior year of high school, which we talked about on this show, with myself playing in a state championship back in the day, which Pittsburgh High goes in for the big score there. Grant Rolfs, the running back, fullback, may have went down just a little bit early, so I think we'll have to line up and try it again. The guy to keep the eye on there for Pittsburgh High tonight, which we'll get back into talking about Southeast Kansas history and how good that tradition used to be. There's a reason that the Visitors Bureau is labeled the football capital of Kansas, so we'll talk about that in a bit. But Caden Barber is the player to look at, number 22 for Pittsburgh High. His dad, a former All-State player there back in the day. 5'11", 186, and he is, of course, a state powerlifting champion as well. So some really good juniors on this team.
I formation and into the end zone and touchdown. I think it's been or two.
Looks like Caden Barber into the score for Pittsburgh High on that carry.
Honestly, did not see the signal. Now, we had the earlier one, and we were looking away. Would that other run get called back?
I believe he was marked down on the 1.
Anyway,
Jackson McKechnie.
We got a touchdown, extra point coming up for Pittsburgh.
Jackson McKechnie to kick the extra point for Pittsburgh, a sophomore kicker.
And we're bouncing all across the state. We got all kinds of games on our monitor and trying to keep up as the extra point is good. I believe. Did we see it?
I think he missed it. I couldn't tell. Kind of hard to go into the feed.
I'm going to get some glasses here. All right. As we are back back to Chet and me. Again, I'm Leon Liebel, your host tonight. Chet Couplins. We're bouncing around the state, kind of just winging it at times, as you may have seen by now. But, again, you're watching Kansas Football Friday. And, Chet, it's, again, going back to the fact that we are having football tonight, and we're having more teams participate this week.
Yeah, it's great. Just the other day, Shawnee Mission School District is back and playing, and some schools going to start playing next week. Some schools aren't playing tonight because they're in quarantine. So we've seen a lot of teams, these makeshift games tonight that weren't supposed to happen that are happening. St. Mary's Colgan that you were just talking about, they were supposed to play Galena tonight, and Galena is a very good Class 3A program led by Bo Sarwinski. I feel, for those guys and hate it for them because they didn't have enough players to play tonight, so they couldn't play. Baxter couldn't play. And Colgan added a school out of Lee Summit, Missouri, St. Michael's up there. So they added them. I believe I looked on Twitter when Galena announced the cancellation of the game. This is how wild things are. And I know they were probably in pre-talks, and there's people that know stuff behind the scenes way before me. But on Twitter, I think that they announced like at 9:42 a.m. That Galena was canceling the game. By like 11:15, Colgan already had another game lined up and coming down to Pittsburgh and still getting in a game. So kind of crazy some things that we see. I did not expect this game that we're seeing right now, Holton and Chapman, to get out of hand like it has. Chapman a solid victory over Sabetha 1 week ago, but Holton also a solid victory over defending state champion Nemaha Central. They can bring the power really defensively on Holton and some of these guys that they have. You look at the linebacker position right there. Jace Boswell, he's just a sophomore out there. They have some big guys up front as well. You look at number 68, Dustin Chermak, 255 pounds on the defensive line. So we talked a lot about the running back that they had out of the backfield. Well, he's also playing defensive tackle, Connor Tannehill, number 22, so keep an eye on him.
And if you just joined us, again, we are watching Holton at Chapman, and Chet just mentioned he was a little surprised by how Holton's gotten out to this big lead, 26-0. The key play in this game, Chapman down 13-0, but moving the football, got inside the 10-yard line of Holton. Looked like they might be about to score, and instead they threw a pass into the end zone. It was picked off. Looked like it was going to be a pick six, returned all the way down to the 3-yard line of Chapman, and from there the Wildcats punched it in for another touchdown and then scored after that. But that play really shifted any sort of momentum in this game that Chapman, the Fighting Irish, may have gathered on that drive. It was a nice drive, and just an unfortunate interception in the end zone. It's really changed the complexion of this football game as the Wildcats, out of that bar to bone, keeping it on the ground and pounding it. Nice defensive stop there, though, by the Fighting Irish of Chapman.
Yeah, you look across the board of the Holton Wildcats up front. There's a lot of 240, 250, 260 guys. Now, there's certainly some guys that are smaller as well on that offensive line, but 4 of those 5 guys, pretty big guys, 240-plus up front. And you can almost not even see that ball, how low the quarterback is. So with exchange, when he hands it off there, almost, doesn't even really have to be any misdirection because you can't see the football. And, of course, a big run there for their stud defensive tackle, Connor Tannehill, that's also the running back, 215, 220. He's a very good player.
Connor Tannehill looked like Earl Campbell taking everybody down the field with him on that play. Man, just busting through the line and just hard to tackle as the Wildcats once again down near the goal line and trying to score as we head back to Great Bend as the Hayes High Indians in this Western Athletic Conference matchup. Hayes 1-0, the only team in the WAC conference to win a week ago, up 22-0 in that game. As there it is, Holton takes it down and to the end zone they go, 32-0 now over Chapman as the extra point coming up for the Wildcats. Wow.
Addison Hundley on the carry there for the Wildcats, 6'1", 200-pound senior, also plays a little bit of defensive end. So we talked about how big that the offensive line is up front, a lot of 240 to 260-pound guys. The thing is, in 3A football, there are not a lot of 200-plus pound ball carriers. There are a lot of 200-pound offensive guards in 3A football. Well, Holton has the big guys up front. They have the big guys in the backfield as well. And if they can get rolling and chip away at you, Holton going to be very hard to stop this year.
Well, they look good right now. The only question mark has been some of their extra point attempts, but it looks like they found a groove kicking the extra points. They get another one as they take a 33-0 lead over the Fighting Irish of Chapman. And Chet, people have followed you and me a little bit maybe and know that we always talk about mascots. I always thought Chapman had a good one with the Fighting Irish. They used to have the exact logo as Notre Dame. They had it from 1967, and I think it was about 10 or 12 years ago. Notre Dame sent them a letter and told them not to use that logo anymore, so they had to change it up. They were also told to always had to have their name, Chapman, in the logo, not to be confused with the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. So there you go as we head back to Chanute. The Blue Comets with the football against the Purple Dragons of Pittsburgh. Some pretty good mascot names right here.
Yeah, Blue Comets, of course, have some tough kids on this team. Now, I know some kids, they may not have everybody out for the Chanute Blue Comet team, but, this is a very tough team. They won state wrestling. In fact, the last state champions crowned in Kansas was state wrestling. Shout out to my buddy Andrew Albright, the head wrestling coach there. He won their first state championship since like 1930 this year in state wrestling. So there's some guys that competed on that wrestling team out there. And, Chanute had to replace their quarterback from last year, Ty Bowman. Ty Bowman plays at Kansas State now as a preferred walk-on. So they definitely have some holes to fill this year, but they have some pretty good juniors back. Now, not all those guys on the field tonight. Chanute won last week in a crazy one with just seconds remaining, 75-yard touchdown return or kickoff return. Jackson Combs, his time was nearly expired to beat Tawanda Circle last week. So they had to fight and claw to the end 1 week ago.
And you mentioned K-State, and again, we look forward to college football kicking out tomorrow as the Wildcats of K-State at home. 11 o'clock kickoff against Arkansas State. KU, at 9 o'clock tomorrow night at home against Coastal Carolina. Seen a lot of high school guys we follow play in the college level as Chanute went back to pass. I'm not sure that was a fake pass and then a run, but not much there for the Blue Comets as we split the screen up into fours. As up there left-hand corner is Great Bend, the Panthers with the football against Hayes High. Hayes up 22-0 in that game. Bottom right, Holton all over Chapman as the Wildcats in their blue pants, white jerseys against the all-green clad Chapman Fighting Irish. Oh, we got a new game on our upper right. That is Uniontown at Waubonsee. And Chet, what can you tell us about these two schools, two programs?
Well, Uniontown, I believe, had a 3-win improvement from a year ago. Jonathan Stark, a very nice guy there, former Fort Scott Tiger player back in the day. He's now the head coach of that program. So this has been a program that has been back and forth, 8-man and back to the 1A, 2A level over the years. Some success over time, but I think Uniontown is one of the teams to look at in the Three Rivers League. Now, they won't be a team to jump off the page maybe for a deep playoff run by any stretch to a lot of people, but they've improved down in Uniontown and done a nice job there in southeast Kansas.
I got to give a little shout-out to a friend of mine in Wichita. Shane Dennis is a graduate of Uniontown High School, one of the top athletes to ever come out of Uniontown, as he was a tremendous pitcher for Wichita State and went on to play a little Major League Baseball. The San Diego Padres, was in the minors, also played in Japan. His father was also from Uniontown, was a pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals. But Shane was also a great basketball player, and I think, I have to check it, but he holds the record for the most points in, I think, what class are they in basketball? Let's see.
2A.
2A. He had the record for the most points in the Class 2A tournament for several years. I'm not sure if that still holds, but just an outstanding athlete and a good guy. He does a radio talk show, of course, Sports Daily down in Wichita.
Yeah, we've had Shane on our show multiple times over the years. Of course, you mentioned Don Dennis, his dad, and Shane. Back in the day, they didn't have high school baseball. He was playing Legion baseball in Fort Scott and had some people looking at him. And in fact, there's a lot of southeast Kansas area players that played on those Wichita State teams. The '89 team that won the national championship, Wichita State, P.J. Forbes, a Colgan kid that went on to play in the MLB as well as Great Bend goes on the board. But yeah, Shane Dennis, Uniontown, I think it was 89 or 90 points in 3 state tournament games back in 1990. He also, I think, had the most free throws in a game or something like that at one point, 20 free throws. And at one point, he had I believe the record in Kansas for the longest punt average. So he is a 3-sport star, and I've talked to him a lot about that on radio over the years. But yeah, class of 1990, Uniontown, and that's hard to believe that that's been, 30 years ago? Wow.
I thought I might have some information there that you didn't know, that he had that record, and you took it a step higher above me. So I appreciate that. That's good. That's good. I used to play a lot of pickup basketball with Shane, and he was tremendous. Had that sweet left-handed shot. So anyway, enough of Shane Dennis and Uniontown as the Holton Wildcats continue to roll. By the way, again, we did mention there, but Great Bend Panthers, nice job getting on the board because it did not look good against Hayes, down 22-0, but the Panthers bouncing right back as Holton here trying to add to its total against Chapman. Now I'm going to bring up a guy from Chapman and see if you probably know, but they're always kind of famous for being the home of Joe Engle, one of the original astronauts, or original space shuttle astronauts. So there.
Wow.
Got anything on that one?
I don't. I have seen the sign. When I think of Chapman in football together, I think of Deshaun Fogel that played at Kansas State. Fogel was a very good player in the mid-1990s for Kansas State and a star for them back in the day. And then another player that was very good at Emporia State was Tyler Paul from Chapman. He was an awesome player for them. In fact, Chapman last year, Kel Stroud, they sent a kid on to South Dakota Division I. So, Holton, we can talk about those guys as well on that team. Trent Tanking was a walk-on for Kansas State, ended up starting. He was our Sports in Kansas Player of the Year the first year we ever came out with it in 2012.
Deshaun Fogel, you mentioned him. I think he had a little bit of a cup of coffee in the NFL, or maybe even more. But, again, outstanding player. Now, Joe Engel, again, an astronaut from Chapman. Always remember that because we see the sign on I-70. But regardless, we always try to find our little trivia tidbits for each program as we bring you highlights and much more. And looking back at Uniontown mascot, Chet. This
the
one
Eagles.
got me. I should know that one. Not sure, checking on the score on this one. Also, give you an update on some scores here when we get closer, more halftime scores from across the state. And you can also check the ticker on the bottom of the screen. That's the best way to do it, actually. And a game in. Oh, go ahead.
And maybe if we can, I don't know if we'll have access to it, if we can go to that Frontenac feed at some point. They're playing Coweta, Oklahoma tonight. Coweta, Oklahoma is a Class 5A program in the state of Oklahoma, and they are playing at Frontenac, Kansas tonight. That's in the second quarter, and that is 12-7. Now, Frontenac lost to Columbus last week. They were held in high regard coming into the year, that they returned. But I believe 5 starters were out for the Raiders, and I don't know the status of that this week. I know the starting quarterback out again, but I saw that as an interesting score as a 5A opponent playing a pretty small 3A opponent down in southeast Kansas.
And again, you're watching Holton Wildcats at Chapman. Holton very much in control of this game in the second quarter, 33-0 late in the second quarter. Looks like they're threatening again out of that Barta Bone offense. Brooks Barta, their head coach. And it is interesting, you mentioned this a couple times, Chet, but the quarterback goes so low on the snap, almost squats down like a catcher every snap. Kind of hide that ball, he keeps it himself. And did he get in? Kind of missed that the right side there, and I think he did.
Kel Purcell on the touchdown, 6'2", 175-pound senior. As you mentioned, he gets so low. It's almost like that, he can touch, be careful he doesn't touch the ground because that would be ruled down if he touches it in high school football.
And again, the Wildcats now up 39-0, ending the extra point. Really up big against the Fighting Irish of Chapman. And extra point is up, and it is good. They had some difficulty early kicking the extra point, but not anymore. They have really been solid in that area. They're solid all the way around, leading 40-0 late in the second quarter. Holton at Chapman. As once again, we take a peek across the state of Kansas. As back to Great Bend, it is 22-7. Hayes High up on the Panthers. Great Bend head coach Aaron Beck, who's been an outstanding coach there. He's a native of nearby Claflin. He played on some pretty good 8-man football teams back in the day and won some state championships. As the Hayes Indians. It looks like Great Bend's got a little energy right now after scoring, getting on the board finally and scoring as the defense coming up big right there.
And have some score updates in the second quarter for you. Clifton Clyde up on Little River, which is an outstanding game in the 8-man ranks, 20-14. Mays is up on campus, 24-7. Oxford leading West Elk, 22-8. Winfield beating Labette County, 7-6. Buckland beating Kiowa County, 30-20. Victoria, 38 over the Chase Cats, 0. Haven, 22. Smoky Valley, 0. Of course, Dodge City leading Liberal 14-0. Wamego and Marysville locked at 6 at last look. Salina Central up on Eisenhower 21-7. Lawrence High 28. Washburn Rural 0. Mays South 21. Salina South 7. Topeka Seaman 21. Topeka Hayden 0. Coffeyville Field Kinley 7. Columbus 6.
And a big game up in Overland Park tonight. St. Thomas Aquinas at home against St. James, and the Saints of Aquinas up 14-0 in that game. The last report, we may have some update, that's in the second quarter. I think that's right, 14-0 Aquinas leading St. James. You mentioned the Clifton-Clyde Little River matchup, two longtime eight-man powers of sorts or over the years. First time they played each other in 25 years tonight. So
wow.
Once again, I think the scheduling situations provided us with some interesting and unique matchups. If we want to look for a bright side of this COVID pandemic situation that's affected high school football and affected sports all across the country.
Yeah, we have some teams that may play 8-man one week, 11-man the next week. They're looking for anything. I don't care. Some teams, maybe a 3A and maybe they have to play a 5A, or a 2A play a 5A. Maybe we don't see that, but I think really anybody's looking for a little bit of everything. Some other scores tonight over at Scores in Kansas, powered by Eddie's Toyota. Derby 16, Newton 7. Baser Linwood up 20-15 on Leavenworth. Mill Valley all over DeSoto, 28-7. We kind of were picking between where are we going to go, Holton or Chapman, or are we going to go to Mill Valley or DeSoto? No matter where we go, it looks like maybe blowouts in both games. Iola up on Parsons, 14-13. Tonganoxie up on Lewisburg in a Frontier League matchup, 10-0. Maybe we can go to that game later on today and see. I know BJ Harris has the feed for that. Andell up 28-0 on Mulvane, so they're flexing their muscles there. That's an outstanding program with Coach Schmidt. Garden Plain looking to go 2-0 as they lead Sterling 7-0. In the Silver Trophy game, Manhattan leading Junction City 22-13.
And again, Junction City coming off a tough loss, a 1-point loss at Bishop Carroll last week, that game in Wichita. I want to go back to Mill Valley, Chet, and ask you, Mill Valley so dominant against Derby last week in that opening victory of the season, and opened up a lot of eyes. And I read and people saying automatically Mill Valley is the best team in 5A, but the 5A is so good. Are they that, have they separated themselves that much? They are the defending champions, but again, 5A is so competitive.
They have not separated themselves because St. Thomas Aquinas is still on that side of the state, and Wichita Northwest hasn't even got going yet. I know Mill Valley won it all last year, of course, and beat Wichita Northwest, but Northwest has a ton back. Mill Valley has a ton back. There's a lot of good teams, and a lot of things can happen in week one, and I think everybody's expecting it to be a dogfight and not a blowout in that one. So I think if you beat Derby, they're the premier program, the best program probably in the state over the last 7 or 8 years. So automatically we're saying Mill Valley, Mill Valley, Mill Valley. Well, yeah, they are the favorite at this point, but as you said, Leon, there are a lot of other teams. Hayes High is one of those teams that nobody's even talking about. And probably they shouldn't be in the top 5 yet. But, if they had been in 4A like they had been the last few years, maybe they're a factor there. But you mentioned 5A football is so deep. It is 10-plus deep.
And back to Wichita, the Holy War, as they call it there, the big rivalry between the two Catholic schools, Capon and Bishop Carroll. And that game is now tied 14-all, 4:17 remaining in the second quarter, as Capon just came back to tie that game. An 8-yard touchdown pass for the Crusaders. Again, their head coach, Weston Scharch, his first year, the longtime head coach of Wichita West and Wichita Northwest, now in his first year at Capon, and trying to do something they haven't done in more than 20 years, and that is defeat their crosstown rival, Bishop Carroll. It's amazing. The Golden Eagles have really dominated that rivalry over the recent years.
And at one point, Capon, of course, in the 70s and 80s, they were kind of the Bishop Miege of those decades in dominance. But, Carroll has really switched it on here, of course, under Alan Shuckman there in the 2000s, and now Dusty Trell, which we talked about, has done an outstanding job since becoming the head coach there a few years ago.
Also, sticking with the Wichita City League again, as we mentioned, they did not play last week. That was because originally they were not going to play. The school board So no activities for the fall. They reversed that decision. So the City League, the public schools in Wichita, will be back to action some tonight. Wichita Northwest, they're playing tomorrow night. Is that right? Against Wichita West. As you mentioned, Northwest, one of the top 5A teams. Twice, 2 years in a row, they played for the state championship as well.
Yeah, Steve Martin has really done an incredible job, and shout out to him because he really fought for those kids, as you saw on social media.
I wanted to mention that he kind of led the charge. He kind of led the charge in that. And, of course, you can say, hey, yeah, he wants to play because he's got a really good team.
Yeah, and he's been the past president of the Kansas Football Coaches Association before, and even before he had the state championship contending teams. He fought for the Kansas kids as a whole when they switched the JUCO rule. He was the most outspoken coach in the state of Kansas, fighting for the Kansas kids. Because I agree with him. I'm biased towards this as well with Kansas kids. I want Kansas kids to have the opportunities. And when they went to unlimited out-of-state kids for Kansas JUCOs, Steve Martin was the guy that was leading that charge and like, hey, we can't stand for this. Let our kids have an opportunity. This and that. And I know that things have changed a little bit since, but he's all about that and a great voice for a lot of kids.
As we just saw, the Holton Wildcats just continue to run all over the Chapman Fighting Irish as it is now 46-0. The extra point, they got the kicking game going now with the extra point, 47-0. That game's still in the first half of play as we switch action.
We're at Frontenac right now in Coweta, Oklahoma. In this game in Frontenac, and of course Frontenac without their starting quarterback. It's kind of hard to tell their uniforms because they're in their military appreciation uniform, so kind of hard to tell the numbers on Frontenac. One number to look out for Frontenac, if you look at number 11 out there, 6'4.5", 235 pounds. That's a young man named Landon Dean. He is a junior. He has offers, 4 FBS Division I offers, Kansas State, Oklahoma State and Iowa State, one of those, and they'll split him out a little bit as well. But Frontenac without their quarterback in the first couple games.
Again, taking on Coweta, Oklahoma. They just completed a long pass and kind of threw it up for grabs, and he caught it in a crowd, but they are in good shape right now.
And I believe I'm going to check their enrollment, Leon.
So we got time
looks
out on
like
the field.
Through 3 grades. Now, they're only counting 3 grades in their enrollment, so I would imagine that their enrollment's close to 1,000. But 10 through 12, Coweta, Oklahoma has 724 students. So they probably have close to 1,000 kids when you count 9th grade with that. That's how much bigger of a school, because I would say Frontenac's in that mid-200 range.
And by the way, Coweta, Oklahoma is pretty much a suburb of Tulsa, just southeast of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and some really good high school football down in that area, as we know, at Jinx and Tulsa Union and whatnot. But they're a big school taking on Frontenac tonight.
Yeah, football outstanding down there. And in fact, when I worked at the University of Tulsa in their athletic marketing department back in the day, we had Boise State versus Tulsa on a Wednesday, Leon, and we had a pretty good crowd that we thought. Well, that Friday we hosted Jinx and Union at Skelly Stadium, H.A. Chapman Field, and there were close to 40,000 people there for a high school football game. But, of course, there's more schools than that now, Owasso and Broken Arrow. Those are some other schools down there that are very good. The facilities are phenomenal. I mean, if you're a player at one of these schools that have 15 or 20,000 fans at your game, and then you have an MIAA program come in, you're like, you guys have 10,000 less people than my high school game. Football down there is incredible. In fact, Tulsa Union, the stadium that they play in basketball, it hosts a college basketball tournament. I believe the Summit League has their college basketball tournament down there in Tulsa Union's high school gym. That's how nice that is. And then, of course, their skyboxes are within that gym that overlook the football stadium. Incredible.
Hey, we got a football game going on in Great Bend right now. The Panthers have just come back to score again. It's now 22-13. The extra point coming up for Great Bend. Again, Hayes High jumped out to a quick 22-0 lead, but Great Bend coming back. Got to give it up to the Panthers here.
Yeah, such a young and inexperienced team from a year ago. They lost basically all their key players over the last couple of years. So you got to give it up for Great Bend because they were absolutely dominated 1 week ago. May South did whatever they wanted to do to Great Bend. Something I really like, and you can appreciate it more than me because you're out from that neck of the woods from there. The WAC stadiums, they're incredible, some of the places that you go to. I know Hayes, of course, plays at the college there, but the Liberal Stadium, the Great Bend Stadium, the Dodge City Stadium, Garden City, incredible football stadiums. It kind of gives you that small school Texas feel to an extent, mid-level Texas feel when you're out there in the WAC. Pretty cool.
And it's amazing you talk about the stadium out in Dodge City. That's where I grew up, Memorial Stadium. It's in its 53rd year, and for years it just seems so new, and it still has a pretty good look to it, I think, but they need some upgrades maybe here and there. But they hosted the Shrine Bowl last year, so highly successful Shrine Bowl, so it was outstanding to have that out in western Kansas. But the Great Bend Panthers getting on the board again, trailing Hayes High 22-14. As that's a game we're going to have to keep an eye on, Chet. It looks like the Panthers are going to make it a game.
Yeah, it's awesome to see a little bit of fight because they only returned a couple of defensive linemen on this team to even come back into the year. So for them to even be in the conversation right now of having it a game, it's good to see. And, you know, Frontenac right now trying to make it a game as well as they look to punch, a touchdown in here for the Raiders. Just 18 seconds, it looks like, remaining in that second quarter as Coweta, Oklahoma, leads them 19-7. So much bigger school here, not a common game. Last year, Frontenac, who played Topeka Hayden very tight in that quarterfinal game in Class 3A, they played opponents from 3 different states last year. They had, of course, an Oklahoma opponent last year, Commerce. I believe they played a school up in Missouri, and then, of course, the rest of their schedule was Kansas. And the most important thing about some of these games in a few weeks, it's already going to be district play, Leon, in 3A and 2A here in week 4.
Again, you're watching Frontenac against Coweta, Oklahoma. Frontenac with the football, trying to get it into the end zone here. And let's check back and at Great Bend. Again, the Panthers coming back here against Hayes High, 22-14. It was 22-0, but Great Bend coming back with 2 unanswered touchdowns. See what Hayes can do here. Early, they were moving the football at will, but the Great Bend defense kind of has stiffened up. It got tough, but here's a big run for the Indians. Nice tackle, though, right there. As he got him by the legs and brought him down. Is that the quarterback? I couldn't see the...
Roy Maroney, the ball carrier there, the running back. He's a very explosive athlete, a junior. In fact, we posted one of his power cleans over 300 pounds earlier this year. So we talk about a lot of the Division I guys that certainly pass the eye test that have that size, but Hayes High, much more than that under Tony Crow, who, of course, has been at multiple places. I remember I first got an inbox message from Coach Crow about a year and a half ago, and he goes, "You're probably going to think I'm crazy, but I think I have 3 or 4 guys that are FBS football players." And I'm like, what? It's like they hadn't had an FBS football player in quite a while. Well, sure enough, a year and a half later, they do.
Kind of a vague question, but what's going on out there in Hayes to produce these players all of a sudden?
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And, to even put it on top of that, Ty Black is a quarterback at Shawnee Mission Northwest. And, of course, Tony Crow wouldn't be there if that was, what happened. But Ty Black, his dad's Bo Black. He was the former coach out at Hayes and Great Bend, both of those. And he is committed to Air Force. So they're just now going to get a season. I've been kind of following all that going on, and they've, of course, been without football the first couple of weeks as Frontenac reverse in for 6 there to cut down the lead to 1 score as seconds remain there in the second quarter. And I wish they had their normal jerseys on so I could tell what they're saying, but the military appreciation, shout out to that for wearing those on 9/11.
All right, back to Great Bend. Here comes Hayes on the sweep around the near side here as they try to get back on the board. They were up 22-0, now 22-14. Hayes High leading Great Bend. I mentioned Great Bend head coach Aaron Beck, a native of nearby Claflin and played on some great Claflin teams. He was also an intern for the Kansas City Chiefs back in the early the 2000s with Dick Vermeil's staff. So got some background from one of the great coaching minds in the history of the National Football League. as we head back. Chapman trying to punch one in here, down 47-0 in the first half, as give it up to the Fighting Irish, not giving up just yet. Trying to move the ball here. We'll pitch out to the left side here, spinning inside the 5-yard line, or inside the 10. And we're watching, we mentioned this earlier, but a rare game on natural grass at Chapman tonight. I'm sure there's many more across the state of Kansas, but man, I remember when if anybody played on turf, of course that was the old turf back in the day, that was just something, but now everybody's got the field turf. And again, our friends at Mammoth Construction doing a great job of keeping Kansas fields covered. Here's a big play for the Hayes High Indians, going on the far sideline with a big pickup and knocked out of bounds. So the Indians trying to answer right back. And we got a little extracurricular. No, that was the end of the first half. My bad. Great Bend looks fired up, man.
Half.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't ask for more out of Great Bend. I mean, they could have folded down and died, but have some momentum going into the halftime, maybe make some adjustments. And, hey, this is a ball game to come out here in the second half of the WAC Conference. Some other scores that are going to halftime across the state from at scores in Kansas. Mill Valley leading DeSoto 35-7. Scott City and Holcomb out in the GWAC 7-6. Scott City leads the Longhorns. Hoisington leads Larned 14-7. Derby over Newton 16-14. And El Saline over Sacred Heart 21-0. Also have a final in 8-man. Argonia Attica 50. Udall 0. Smith Center leading Phillipsburg 7-6 at the half. Wellsville and Anderson County tied at 7. Coffeyville up on Columbus 7-6 at the half, as well as Waubonsie, a game that we were at earlier, up on Uniontown 13-0, as several scores coming across the state for halftime scores.
And speaking of scores, the Chapman Fighting Irish finally get into the end zone. Their first touchdown of this game, now trailing 47-6. So they'll try to convert the extra point. Natural grass, straight on kicker. 1978 right here, man. And the extra point misses. But Chapman getting on the board, 47-6. Holton Wildcats taking that big lead. And again, Chet, you mentioned that, a bit of a surprise. Thought there's going to be a better matchup tonight.
Yeah, you saw last week, of course, a big win, for really both opponents. And Chapman knocking off Sabetha. Maybe Sabetha is a little bit down from where they've been, but I think Holton is showing more than anything that they're a contender, that they're here to play. And Brooks Sparta teams always are, and he's certainly done a lot with some years. Not a lot of talent, as much as in other years. So it's cool to see them out to a hot start so far and likely to a 2-0 start. But some surprises across the state a little bit, but nothing completely crazy. I just wish we had some closer games, but it's nice to see Great Bend kind of close the gap there a little bit in the WAC game.
Yes, it is. Great Bend Panthers trailing 22-14 at halftime. It's halftime pretty much across the state of Kansas. And with that, we're going to take a break. We'll be back with more of Kansas Football Friday right after this.
It's okay to shop around, but make your last stop Lewis Chevrolet of Garden City. We have the largest pre-owned inventory in Western Kansas, and we back them with GM certification. That means you get an upgraded ride and peace of mind with a 172-point inspection, 3 months of OnStar and XM radio, 2 years of no-cost maintenance, and a 6-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Plus, at Lewis Chevrolet of Garden City, you never pay retail. Stop by Lewis Chevrolet of Garden City today or click lewischevy.com. Buy local, buy for less, buy Lewis.
So, what is love?
Love is being independent.
Love is dancing.
At Shriners Hospital for Children, love is a new smile.
At Shriners Hospitals for Children, love is caring for a child regardless of the family's ability to pay. Learn how you can send your love to the rescue at lovetotherescue.org.
What rhymes with great?
Participate.
Where does greatness start?
Here, in the classroom.
On the stage.
In the pool.
On the field.
Where will your greatness take you?
To better grades.
To more friends.
Yeah! Be great.
Participate.
I've been with Lewis Automotive since 2007. I've worked in the service department, finance, and sales, so I've experienced all aspects of the dealership. I enjoy the car business because I get to see people from different walks of life every day. I grew up in a small Kansas town, so I take pride in getting to know my customers. I think that's what sets Lewis apart. We treat our customers like family. I'm Mike Shook, General Manager of Lewis Chevy Cadillac of Garden City, and I'd like to help you join the Lewis family.
And welcome back, everybody, to Kansas Football Friday. I'm Leon Liebel, along with Chet Copeland. This show presented by Sports in Kansas. Chet Copeland, the mastermind, as I like to call him, of Sports in Kansas, as it is week number 2 of high school football across the state of Kansas. Halftime pretty much on all our games right now as we check in with live action and scores and more. And if you're watching our show, we'd love for you to put a like on Facebook or share it on Facebook and just get more people to watch as well, a lot of people can't go to games with the pandemic, and so this is a way for fans to check in and watch some live action of high school football in Kansas, Chet.
Yeah, I think it's great to be on in live games, and I think we're going to hear from some reporters across the state. That's something kind of a trial and error last week with some service, and we may be hearing from Sean Fry of Parsons Sun Sports. He's at, I believe, the Iola and Parsons game, and that was a pretty good game, of course, that I saw early on in the second quarter. So we'll give you some halftime updates as well and bring you some live reports of people actually out and about at some high school football games if they can take their mask down for a bit and talk to us and give us a report what's going on.
And, I say highlights, live action scores, and more. And more includes a lot of nonsense between Chet and me because we consider ourselves Kansas historians, and Chet knows every good restaurant and hole-in-the-wall place in the state, and we know all the mascots. We love trivia. If you want to participate in that, we'd love to have that too. You can participate and let us know on Twitter. Again, that is hashtag KSFanshout. Also, if you have any pictures tonight, you're at a game, want to take a snapshot of your son or anyone or anything going on at your game tonight, hashtag KSFanCam. So there you go as you again are watching Kansas Football Friday presented by Sports in Kansas as it is week number 2 for Kansas football. And we do going to have our guest coming up shortly, and that is going to be Sean Fry. Is that right, Chet?
Yes, he is. He's trying to call in. I think he may be having a little bit of service issues, but once he gets connected, we're going to hear from him. He was going to come on last week, but he's a great guy to talk to down in southeast Kansas. It's been down there covering for about 6 years and covers most of the teams in Labette County, but of course he'll know Crawford County, Cherokee County, and CNC, SEK, TRL, TVL in the southeast corner of the state. And maybe at some point we can check in with Brent Maycock. I don't think we'll have Matt Gilmore tonight. He's busy doing some stuff, but hopefully we'll have some live guests on here tonight to break down some action and go to where they're at.
And not because he's on our show tonight, but I'm going to mention Sean Fry is one of the best one of the best sports journalists in the state, period. But he does an incredible job of not just covering games and things, but some in-depth articles. It's fascinating, and he does a terrific job, and look forward to hear from him. I think we got Sean as I just Buttered him up pretty well there.
As we welcome in the masked man here, Mr. Sean Fry of Parsons Sun Sports. Where are you at tonight and what's going on, man?
So, Chet, you actually had it wrong. I'm at St. Paul Oswego tonight, a matchup between the Co-3 Rivers League champions and 8-man last year. I saw Parsons play Anderson County last week. Right now, Parsons is up in Iola. They're up 19-14 last I was checking. I was watching the KOKC live stream during halftime of this game. Oswego leads St. Paul 16-8. St. Paul struck first on a short run from Kaiser Weitrick. St. Paul marched down the field to open up its drive, but then there's been a lot of turnovers here tonight. Jace Landis having a very good 2-touchdown game, 1 run, 1 pass for the Oswego Indians, and that brings our score to 16-8. Oswego has marched down the field at times, but there's been a lot of turnovers here as well. And then obviously everybody here in mass, everybody socially distanced. I've got mine on as well. So some good football I've been seeing here so far.
Sean,
how great does it feel to – go ahead, Leon.
Well, I was just going to ask the fan situation. Is there a limit on fans at these games, like in some places?
No limit on fans here at St. Paul, but they are enforcing masks as they come in, and they're encouraging social distancing. We're seeing pretty good compliance. If you ask my opinion, I would think we need a little better compliance out of the St. Paul and Oswego crowds tonight, but I think overall they've got hand sanitizer stations. Even I'm kind of restricted on my movement. They want me out of the box as much as possible, and avoiding walking behind the players if I'm shifting sides or shooting photos. So it's definitely some restrictions, but I'm all for it. I just want my football, and I'm excited to be here.
As far as Southeast Kansas League this year, I know we have some independent schools, Parsons and Pittsburgh. In the CNC this year, you cover a lot of leagues in the Southeast Kansas League. Who are the teams to watch for this year in Southeast Kansas as a whole? Who should we be looking for?
Well, if you're looking at the SEK League, I think it's, Chanute looked really good last week. They won on that kickoff return for a touchdown. It's going to be curious to see. They have a quarantine situation going on right now. They're still playing, but they have some players that are quarantined right now, so it'll be interesting to see how that affects their season long term. Lebec County, I think, is actually a team to watch when it comes to SEK League play. They've got a really solid defense and a solid offensive line. Their skill positions are a little lacking, so they lack some of that firepower, but they're really going to grind it out. They had an opportunity to beat Pittsburgh last week, and honestly, they really should have. Into Coffeyville, though, I think the race is going to come down to Chanute, Coffeyville, and Lebec County. Coffeyville under first-year head coach Deontay Wade spent a couple years as defensive coordinator at Parsons. He was on that coaching staff at Parsons when they went 8-3 after having just years and years of losing seasons. He seems to have some momentum going into that Coffeyville program. They looked good in week 1, and I think they have a legitimate case to dethrone Chanute as the SEK League champs. But I think ultimately it's a 3-team race between Chanute, who are the reigning champions, Lebec County, who played in a de facto league championship game last year against Chanute, and Coffeyville, a team on the rise.
Well, for about 6 years that you've been over there, maybe a little bit longer, you're a K-State alum. You were, of course, a basketball manager there for Frank Martin and Bruce Weber, both there. So you've been in Kansas quite some time, and you had to be a little bit of a news reporter for a bit as well over the last 6 months during this COVID-19 period. Are you back to full-time sports, and what's that experience been like doing a little bit of both?
Back to full-time sports. I've been back on full-time sports since the end of July, really. But I will say, I thought moving to the news desk a little bit, covering some city commission stories, covering some local business stories, it got me more immersed into my community, and I felt like it was very valuable for me as a journalist to get that experience. And obviously I felt a certain sense of duty to serve my community during the pandemic. As sports have come back, I'll tell you what, Chet, the last 2 weeks, I've never been so tired because you just jumped right back into a full-time routine after months off. Admittedly, I got a little lethargic during the spring. It's weird just to go so many months without sports, be covering things in such a different way, and then just jump right back into it. Some of my best friends are coaches in this area and teachers in this area, and they were all exhausted too. So I think the last 2 weeks have been fairly taxing physically and mentally, but it's been very fulfilling as well. And I'm very happy to be back, and I think it's a great situation. In a column I wrote today for the Parsons Sun on the anniversary of 9/11, I talked about a lot of what has gone on in this country since the pandemic. And, I'm not going to go into it too much, but my ultimate message is, we talk about never forget on 9/11 all the time. That's a rallying cry for the sacrifices that 3,000 of our American lives paid on this anniversary. Right now, America is under attack again by the pandemic, and the people who are most vulnerable in this country are paying the biggest price. Sports is a place that provides equity in American society, and so keeping these sports safe and going is really what is best for kids. And by keeping it safe, that means there's going to be some tough choices. That means some fans may have to stay home. It means everybody better be wearing their masks. But overall, I think that's what's best for Kansas, and it's what's best for these kids, and I'm excited to be back.
Well said, Sean. And I want to ask you something that's completely off that topic, though, because I did not know you were a basketball manager at K-State, but did Frank Martin ever yell at you?
He yelled at me my first week of practice. Only time he yelled directly at me. I messed up on the clock one time. They were doing some sprinting drills as punishment, and I messed up on setting the clock.
Oh, we may yell at him right now. We've lost Sean, I think. But terrific job from Sean Fry from the Parsons Sun. And again, well said what he was just talking about there, tying 9/11 in with our current situation. Never forget 9/11. We're never going to forget 2020 as well. And terrific job Sean Fry does down in southeast Kansas, obviously. Frank Martin, I'd rather have him yell at me than stare at me, I think. So, anyway, going back to that. But Chet, we are getting back to action as we're looking on our monitor here. As looks like the Chanute Pittsburgh captains are at midfield, getting ready for the second half action there. As we go up to our split screen, and a lot of a couple empty football fields there, and not much going on just yet, as is pretty much halftime all across the state of Kansas. And with that,
we have a lot of updates coming in after the break.
Yeah, I think we're going to take a break. Again, it was great to hear from Sean Fry, and I'm Leon Liebel. Along with Chet Copeland, you're watching Kansas Football Friday, presented by Sports in Kansas. We're back with more right after this.
My daughter was diagnosed with scoliosis.
Connor's right leg was shorter than the left.
Her issues were so rare.
I wanted a doctor who's experienced at treating my child's exact condition.
That's why we went to Shriners Hospitals for Children.
These doctors develop the most advanced procedures.
They do so much research.
With some of the most innovative doctors in the world.
And they put all their best thinking, all their love into healing my child.
And they did it, regardless of our ability to pay.
My daughter is who she is today because of Shriners Hospitals for Children.
The innocence of youth. Is there anything any better? But soon they'll be in high school and facing all the same challenges you faced. How to make friends, how to fit in, how to be cool. We want our children to have everything they'll need to live fulfilling and productive lives. Make sure the kids in your family are among the more than 170,000 participants here in Kansas who take part in high school sports or activities.
At Lewis Automotive Group, our pre-owned inventory is dwindling. With no auctions, it's been difficult to replenish our stock. So we're offering big money for your trade. In most cases, we can get you into a newer vehicle with fewer miles with no change to your payment. Have a vehicle you just don't use? We want to buy that too. So we're offering free appraisals. Stop into any Lewis location and trade in and trade up. Or get cash money for your car or truck during our pre-owned buyback event at Lewis Automotive Group, Dodge City, Garden City, Liberal, and Hayes.
And back here on Kansas Football Friday, I'm Leon Liebel along with Chet Copeland from Sports in Kansas as we're bringing you live action, highlights, and much more from Kansas high school football in this week number 2 from across the state. And we'll be back to action here as we'll bring up some games on your monitor, on your set, as we're all over the state. And I wanted to mention that I was checking out a scores. Hoxie is playing lacrosse. That's an 8-man game as we check in on Pittsburgh at Chanute. But the big man for Hoxie just caught a touchdown pass. An interesting story, and we talked about him last week. And I can't pronounce his last name very well, so I'm going to let you do that, Chet. But he's 7 foot, 300 and some pounds. Harlan
Obahaya.
Obahaya.
I believe I'm saying that right. Now, I've talked to him quite a bit. We kind of helped put it, well, we didn't really help a whole lot because he's 7 foot tall, but when we started tweeting about him, offers came in. He was a Sports in Kansas, of course, all-state pick in basketball. And, you know, Connor Nickel, who writes for us, just actually texted me a bit ago, and maybe we're going to try to bring on Connor at some point. But he said 23-yard touchdown catch with 0.3 seconds left in the first half in that one. So Connor Nickel, if you search him on Twitter, he's updating people around the state on that. But how crazy is that to see? Because a couple years ago, Hoxie had a 6'6", 300 kid. And then on the sophomore, they had a 6'8", 6'9" kid. Well, now that 6'8", 6'9" kid that was a sophomore is now that senior. That's 7 foot 305. And our Instagram at Sports in Kansas, it's a very popular deal that we put out, and a lot of different photos are. We put a picture out, and man, you just talk about a guy that is just humongous in a good way. It's very impressive, and he's got, I think, around 11 or 12 Division I FBS full-ride offers out of 8-man Hoxie, which, of course, 3 years ago, you know, playing – well, there he is right there on the screen, 74 that popped up for a second. But 3 years ago, they won a state title in 8-man Division 8-man Division I.
And again, he's not just a big guy, but I understand he's very athletic, great basketball player as well, and a tremendous football player, as we just mentioned. Caught a touchdown pass a little while ago as Hoxie leading lacrosse. That's an 8-man game, as Chet mentioned, and lacrosse playing 8-man football this year has dropped down to 8-man from 11-man. So the Leopards of lacrosse, one of the unique mascots across our state. As we check in again, this is Hayes High as we begin the third quarter out in Great Bend. Hayes leading Great Bend 22-14, but this has developed into a pretty good game because if you just joined us, Hayes out to a quick 22-0 lead, and then Great Bend, though, came right back with a couple touchdowns, and now the Indians on the move and on the run inside the 10, down to the 5, into the end zone for the touchdown. How about that for some timing as we check in? And just like that, the Hayes High Indians score, do they? Let's see if that, yes, they do. Saw the official coming in there. I didn't know if they called that one back, but now there's the celebration from the Hayes sideline. So that makes it 28-14.
And Jordan Dell on the carry there playing quarterback for Hayes High tonight, and has looked impressive the few times that we've went up to the screen to him. That was kind of the question mark heading into the season for this Hayes High Indian team. We knew they had, of course, FBS players on their defense and some solid guys, linebacker, defensive ends. But the question mark was, can their line get it done? Who's going to step up out of the backfield? And I think they've certainly answered some of those questions the first couple of weeks of the season. But got to give it up to Great Bend for keeping this a game, because it very well could have went the other way in that second quarter.
I found it interesting that Hayes, on their very first touchdown of this game, went for a 2-point conversion. They converted and got the 8-0 lead. And I thought, well, maybe they'd just do 2-point conversions. But it's been they've been kicking it ever since. It's kind of like Oregon back a few years ago. The Ducks, when they had their high-powered offense going, they would always, after their very first touchdown, go for 2, and the theory was to get up by 8 early, and it was kind of even a psychological thing, not just a numbers situation against their opponent. But not sure that's what Hayes was doing, but I just thought that was interesting. As we head back to, this is Frontenac against Coweta, Oklahoma. Frontenac at home tonight, taking on a much larger school.
And I would have to say that this is probably the biggest high school as far as in a football game that Frontenac High School has ever played. I mean, this school would darn near be 6A in the state of Kansas when adding all 4 grades up. So you just don't see that very often. And this wasn't, a COVID thing. This game was scheduled headed into the year. So they had this on their schedule. This wasn't something that was just made up. And as I mentioned, several players out for the Raiders last week. I didn't get an update this week. Is in the left corner of the screen, you see Hoxie leading lacrosse 24-14. And a question that I have for you, Leon, how difficult do you feel like it is to transition from a 11-man football to 8-man football for lacrosse?
Oh, I think it is, and I actually I know Bill Keeley, the longtime superintendent of lacrosse. We grew up together. He's a former football player at K-State, played linebacker there. He's a former head coach at lacrosse as well, and I know it's not just difficult adjusting on the field, but it's kind of psychological, mentally. You've been an 11-man team, and now you're an 8-man team, but they're trying to make the best of it. I know that as the Leopards tonight opening up, or this season opening up as an 8-man team. And we're seeing a lot more of that in Western Kansas, schools dropping down. And we've seen a lot of schools, we talked about this last week, more schools are going to 6-man increasingly every year. One of those, Ashland, if you go out to Western Kansas, and the Blue Jays for a long time had some really good 11-man football, and now they're down to 6-man, so sign of the times, I guess.
I just hope we never go to the 3-on-3 basketball.
Yeah, I think we can still get 5 guys out there for basketball, hopefully. So, as once again checking our games from across the state, and this is the good one in Great Bend. At least it's been competitive. The Panthers and the Hayes High Indians, big rivals. You talked about Bo Black moments ago. Now the head coach at Shawnee Mission Northwest, but longtime coach at Great Bend. He came from the state of Texas, and he brought a whole new attitude to Great Bend and really got that program playing well in the 90s, late 90s, and through the 2000s, and then left to go to the arch rival Hayes High, and I think he was just there 1 year before he moved on to Kansas City. As Great Bend going for the long pass here, and that ball broken up, incomplete. And back to Chapman, where the Holton Wildcats, one of our feature games tonight, leading 47-6 in the third quarter. They were up 47-0 in this game. Chapman scoring a touchdown before the end of the first half.
And speaking of those 6-man programs, Leon, I believe there's 15 of them across the state of Kansas right now. And according to the leagues on kpreps.com, there's a 6-man South and 6-man North. That 6-man South is Cunningham, Ashland, Moscow, Pawnee Heights, Burton, Fowler, Rolla, Deerfield, which, as I said a week ago, that I'd been to basically all these. 6-man North, Cheylin, Northern Valley, Natoma, Weston, Western Plains, Golden Plains, and Tribune, Greeley County.
Fighting Irish at Chapman, moving the football here as they start the third quarter, again down 47-6, back to 6-man. And again, not affiliated with the Kansas State High School Activities Association. Am I correct? They're still not part of that? It's kind of
no, they're not.
Yeah.
8-man 2 is the lowest level right now, but they have their own, I believe, coaches association, all that. But they have, I believe, it's still in Dodge City. It has been the Wild West Bowl.
Yeah. Now, if increasingly more teams drop down to 6-man, could we see Keisha take over?
I think it's a possibility if you have enough schools with that. Maybe if you get in that 24-plus range, maybe that's something that they need to look at because, 1A right now I think has around 30 schools, something like that. 1A is, of course, the old 2 and 1A, and then 2A has 48 schools, 3A 48 schools, 4A on up. Of course, they have the same number and not like the old 4A with 64 and 3A. So classifications have certainly changed over the years, and it's hard to keep track of basketball and volleyball and all that because one year we'll have 1A. The next year we'll have 1A1, 1A2 again, which we've already added back since, I believe, 2011, the first year of starting that, and then they went away from it.
Hey, update from a big game in the city of Wichita tonight, the big battle between the two Catholic schools, Capon and Bishop Carroll. Capon has just taken a 21-17 lead on the Golden Eagles, 6:34 left to go in the third quarter, and they ate up more than 5 minutes on their scoring drive. and did not pass the entire drive. Just ran the ball. I guess it was just, according to Taylor Eldridge from the Wichita Eagle, just smashed mouth football all the way down the field. And that's kind of been Weston Schartz's trademark in his long coaching career. Doesn't really like to throw the ball. As Capon up 21-17 on Carroll, and again trying to stop a long losing streak against their arch rival from across town.
Yeah, some more third quarter scores across the state of Kansas from Scores in Kansas. Derby leading Newton 23-14, so that is a bit closer than many would have thought. Southeast of Saline up 18-0 on Beloit. Of course, we checked in at their game last week with Dylan Sherwood. Oswego leading St. Paul 24-8. We just heard from Sean Fry on that. Wabanzi leading Uniontown 13-7. We had that game on our screen earlier tonight. Garden Plain up on Sterling 7-0. Out in the Wichita area, Cheney up 34-7 on Belle Plaine. Out in Western Kansas, Holcomb up 14-7 on Scott City. Up in the Kansas City area, the Saints of St. Thomas Aquinas in their first game of the year, leading 21-0 against St. James Academy. Now, keep in mind, St. James Academy goes down to Class 4A this year. El Saline leading Sacred Heart 27-0 in the third quarter. Anderson County and Wellsville locked at 7. So we'll continue to keep you updated from Scores in Kansas across the state as more updates come in.
And the Chapman Fighting Irish, they were moving the football, and then they fumbled and turned it over. A second big turnover in this game. Of course, going back to early in the first quarter when they were still in the game, they had a pick six or a interception in the end zone. It was brought back all the way down to the 3-yard line where Holton scored, and that was a big turning point in this game. As again, Holton out to the 47-6 lead, but Chapman just turned it over on the fumble, and Holton has the ball back, or the possession back. Another score, I'm not sure you mentioned, but Derby at Newton tonight, and this is a close game. Derby leading 23-14 over the Railers, and again, Derby, the victim of that just a dominating victory from Mill Valley a week ago that just everybody was talking about. But the Derby Panthers not dominant tonight against Newton, 23-14. So once again saw their 26-game winning streak come to an end a week ago at Mill Valley. And here's lacrosse in Hoxie. Hoxie with the football, or lacrosse with the football. Hoxie with the lead, 24-14.
And that's going to be one of the biggest high school football players that you'll ever see on our screen.
And what number is he? Number 84?
74. No, he's 74. Number 84 is not a small guy, is what I was going to say, and he makes him look like a small guy. So that's Harlan Obahaya in the middle, and he has multiple offers now. He's being recruited more than likely as an offensive lineman. I mean, imagine how much. That's kind of an awkward height and weight probably to play at alone. You don't see a lot of 7-foot guys, but last year we saw him return an interception for a touchdown. So the guy can move a little bit and a big dude.
I was going to say, I've seen video of that touchdown, I believe, that interception he had, and it was incredible. It was like a line drive that he just reached up and picked out of the sky and then took it in. And the quarterback just could not throw it high enough over the 7-footer. As we head back to Great Bend, the Hayes High Indians leading now 29-14 over Great Bend. Panthers with the football.
Smith Center up on Phillipsburg, 15-13 end of third quarter. So an outstanding game in the MCL. Also in the MCL, such a good league across the state, 1A through 3A. Oakley, I think they've opened up a little bit of eyes this year. They lead Plainville right now 10-7 with 8 minutes left in the third quarter. So shout out to Jeff Hennick and company for doing a nice job there for the Plainsmen in Oakley. So really cool to see them. I don't think they'd won an MCL game in multiple years until last week. And now, hanging around beating Plainville, a very good Class 1A program.
Plainville, a pretty good tradition as well, going back to the days of the 1980s when all those Mid-Continent League teams were so dominant. I think one year they won 3 state championships in that league, different classes. The old Norton teams and Plainville and Stockton. Stockton was one of the top teams in that league. Oakley Plainsmen, home of the world's largest prairie dog as well, Chet.
I have. I've stayed in Oakley, Kansas, multiple times.
I knew you probably had. And the Great Bend Panthers still with the football against Hayes, stacked up there at the line of scrimmage. 29-14, Hayes on top of Great Bend. You hear the fans in the background. And back to Hoxie, lacrosse with... this game is at Hoxie, so it's lacrosse trailing 24-14 in the third quarter. And once again, lacrosse playing 8-man football this year, dropping down from 11-man.
I saw an interesting picture of that earlier. They were moving their field goal post, and I believe this actually is in lacrosse.
Yeah,
this
it
game.
is in lacrosse. I was going by the scoreboard there, and they got their home black uniforms on. The Leopards. Also the barbed wire capital of the world. I want to get that in there too for lacrosse. So.
Hey, I did not know that.
Yeah, they have a museum
That's
there.
Impressive.
I actually covered a K-State USC football game out in Los Angeles at the Coliseum. I was talking to the guy, and he was from L.A. He's a big USC fan, and that's what he brought up to me, that he had stopped in La Crosse, Kansas once and went to the barbed wire museum. I couldn't believe it. I'm standing in the Coliseum watching USC, and this guy's talking about the barbed wire museum in La Crosse. So that's good. That's good.
Obahaya at the right tackle, as you can see here. And, he's got some pretty nice footwork, something that, he really needs to address. And I've talked to him about it, and, his strength in the weight room. I mean, this is a kid that's a basketball player that's known for playing basketball. And recently he's just figured out he's a football prospect. So he's going to certainly need some work in the weight room. He knows that. He'll be the first one to tell you. But there's some athleticism to go, and you have that frame. And maybe you think 6'11", 7 foot is almost too big because we just don't see that many people that size, but you have to take an opportunity, a chance. The last guy that was that big playing out on football fields on Friday night was Willie Cauley-Stein.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Willie Cauley-Stein, was it Olathe Northwest? He finished his high school career, and he was a pretty good wide receiver.
Yeah, over 1,000 yards, a top 11 pick back in the day. And he was a high school quarterback at one point at Spearville before transferring away to play up there. Of course, played with Siobhan Shields, Will Shields' son, up there for Olathe Northwest. And, how about this? Siobhan Shields was an all Big Ten basketball player in Nebraska. Willie Cauley-Stein, I believe, was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. And they did not make a state tournament because they were knocked off by the A-10 Player of the Year and Tyler Kalinowski of Olathe East in high school. So there's some stuff there. You have two major Division I players and don't make a state tournament. How wild is that?
I do remember that. Willie Cauley-Stein, of course, went on to play for John Calipari at the University of Kentucky. His senior year, he was first team AP All-American, which is a huge accomplishment now in the NBA with the Dallas Mavericks, and did not play during this season, opted out. And did not play, but is getting ready. I saw some video of him the other night on Twitter as he was preparing to get back into action when the NBA season for next year resumes in just a couple months away. It's all very confusing right now in the sports world. Last Saturday the Kentucky Derby was on. I turned the TV on. I'm thinking, well, it's May. It just felt like May because, of course, the first Saturday in May the Kentucky Derby is run. If you follow sports all your life, you kind of your calendar's kind of dictated by sports, and it's been really just wacky and weird this year. You almost have to look at the calendar and see what the date is.
Yeah, very, very confusing on stuff going on and all that. It was weird seeing that the Chiefs last night with minimal fans out there, but a sense of normal coming back, and great to see. Some updates across the state, Leon. Rock Creek up on Rossville. That was a little bit surprising to me. Of course, both of those teams in the Mid-East League. That's 26-24 in that one. A halftime score coming in Iola. Iola leads Parsons 20-19 as Parsons head coach Jeff Scheibe in his first year, still looking for his first win. Headed into the fourth quarter, Douglas is up on Marion 14-8 in that one. And, of course, more scores coming in across the state at scores in Kansas. Hill City up on Ness City 7-6 in the third. Mill Valley beating DeSoto 49-7. Goddard over Valley Center 20-6 in the third. Smith Center leading 15-13 over Phillipsburg. Topeka Seaman up 21-15 on Hayden. Oxford up 28-22 on West Elk. Wamego up 14-6 on Marysville. Ottawa up 20-16 on Baldwin. Mission Valley up 22-6 on West Franklin. And as we mentioned, Oakley leading Plainville 10-7 as more schools or scores come in across the state of Kansas. And it looks like Goodland was in overtime the last that I checked on that one. So I don't know if all their coaches are back or whatnot in that matchup, but it looks like Goodland was playing Bridgeport, Nebraska tonight, and they just lost in overtime, actually, 26-20. So they were playing a Nebraska opponent, the Goodland Cowboys, tonight after a win last week over Liberal, 43-32.
And once again, we're checking in one of our games of the week, and it is Holton at Chapman. And, the Fighting Irish still trying to hang in there and get something on the board again as they're moving. And in Holton territory, the man in motion the far side, he's going to take the pitch to that right side and breaks a tackle, cuts in, and he is in for the touchdown. How about that? Chapman on the board, 47-12. Fighting Irish, keep fighting.
And it looks like we have a heck of a game going on in Wichita, Leon. It looks like Carroll is back up 24-21 late in the third quarter on a Hunter Trail 4-yard touchdown. So Bishop, Carroll, and Capon, that game at Capon tonight in the Holy War there in the storied rivalry.
And, man, Bishop Carroll, looks like they're going to be the second week in a row. One of their games right down to the wire again last week. It took them stopping a 2-point conversion by Junction City to hold on to win by 1 over the Blue Jays. And tonight they're in a real battle against Capon. And we talked about Bishop Carroll's amazing schedule this year. They had to revamp everything when everything went crazy at the beginning of the year. And they're going to play just a crazy schedule already. They got Capon, Junction City. They're going to play Derby. They're going to play Bishop Miege. And I think we said they're going to play St. James Academy. So Dusty Trails.
What a game that we have going here, Leon. What a game we have going here that wasn't even supposed to happen. We're at Butler Community College right now, BG Products Stadium. This is Girard on Girard Sports Live. Pratt leading Girard 20-19 with 1:16 and ticking in this ball game out in El Dorado. So what an outstanding football game, because Girard would have been heavily favored likely over Baxter. Pratt probably the same way with Lions. So a game that wasn't even in any way, shape, or form a game a couple of days ago. These two schools battling it out. And I don't think Girard, they said earlier, I saw in a tweet, Scott Newsom, formerly of the Fort Scott Tribune, I believe, put out a tweet that said Girard had never played a team from the Central Kansas League, because Girard's never been to a state championship in football, so they would never have an opportunity to meet one of those teams.
Girard, Dennis Francione? Did he play there?
Yeah, he's actually an alum of Cherokee High School. And he's from that area, though, down there right by Girard. I think he's may have actually lived in Girard or around the city limits, but I believe he's an alum of Cherokee High School. I don't know if it was Southeast at the time, because that consolidated with, of course, McCune and all those schools back in the 60s, 70s. But, yeah, Coach Fran, former coach at Pittsburgh State, Southwestern, and at one point the head coach at Alabama, Texas A&M, TCU, New Mexico, you name it.
And he's got quite a legacy of guys who coached under him, done well. Gary Patterson, namely at TCU, who was his defensive coordinator, and then, of course, has gone on to become head coach. I believe Tim Beck played for Dennis Francione at Pitt State, or had a connection there. And now Tim Beck, I believe, is going to go to join Gary Patterson's staff as well down at TCU.
Yeah, I've heard Coach Beck is down there working, and I know Jerry Kill is down there as well. And, of course, Coach Kill, I believe, played for Coach Fran
that's
at
the connection,
College.
Yeah. Yes.
Back in the day. All those guys are connected, and Gary Patterson was a GA for Pittsburgh State in the 80s when Dennis Francione was a coach.
And all those guys from small towns in Kansas. You talk about Jerry Kill from Cheney, Gary Patterson from Roselle. We mentioned Dennis Francione and Tim Beck from Ness City. So all those guys coaching big-time football. As once again we are watching, we were checking out there the Girard game as we split we go to the four corners. As it's Pratt and Girard. That game again played at B&G Product Stadium in El Dorado. And hats off to everybody involved in getting that game scheduled on short notice and getting a place to play, a neutral field. Both teams wearing their home uniforms tonight. As everyone has is a bit of a run in the option this year. Everyone thinking on the run a little bit. And it's difficult, but it's also created some interesting matchups across the state. As once again we back to lacrosse, where Hoxie leading the Leopards 30-14 in this 8-man battle.
And we may have a live update from this game. I know we're at the game right now, but I may have one of our reporters who's actually there, Connor Nickel, who does a lot of stuff for us for Sports in Kansas. He may be calling in at the end of the quarter. And if you talk about Western Kansas football and anything really west of Wichita, Connor Nickel, no matter if it is 6-man or 6A, he can break down anything. And I'm not just talking about football. It's volleyball. It's basketball. It's cross country. The guy knows a lot, and I talked about it last week. You know, he's a Truman State alum, and he's from Missouri. But you sure would think that he's a Kansas native like us for as much as he's known all the stuff that he knows, formerly with the Hayes paper for years out there and covered the Tigers, and now does some stuff for us over the last 4 or 5 years.
And those guys doing those jobs right now, it's really important for us who follow high school sports across Kansas. And it's been a difficult time for everybody, and a lot of jobs have been eliminated in the media. So we're glad to see guys still out there doing it. I know we talked to Sean Fry from the Parsons Sun earlier, and he's excited about being back. You know, just like the athletes and the coaches, everybody's been glad to be back on the sidelines and covering a game.
Yeah, great feeling. I know that when we did the Kansas Shrine Bowl this summer, you know, that was kind of a sense of relief to me. Like, oh my gosh, we're actually going to get a live sporting event, because ever since, you know, when reality hit was whenever we didn't get to do state track, because I've not missed a state track and field meet in I don't know how many years, and I can't even imagine how many that you've been to over the years. And that was the weirdest feeling, because of course I live in Wichita, and I drove up, you know, and walked around the stadium during Championship Saturday and took some pictures. And it was really an eerie feeling, because that would have been full of 20,000 fans and people cheering girls and guys on from all 6 classifications of Kansas. And we didn't have that. And it was just like, wow, this is reality. This is really, really weird. So that's why it's so great to see what we're seeing right now. Even if it's limited fans, even if it's vouchers or whatever it happens to be, we're still giving it an effort to try to have a season.
Holton Wildcats are having a game with this second game of the season as they lead Chapman 47-13. It was 47-0 late in the second quarter. Chapman scored a late touchdown, added another one here in now it's the fourth quarter as we're headed the other way. The Wildcats, Holton well on their way to victory here against the Fighting Irish of Chapman. You mentioned that empty Cessna Stadium last spring, and Wichita State announcing as well they're going to be tearing down Cessna Stadium. But the good news is the plan is to rebuild a smaller stadium, a newer updated stadium at the same site, and continue to have the state track and field meet there. So that's a ways off. They still got to raise some money for that whole situation. It's going to take a couple million just to tear it down, but still there's a lot of tradition, a lot of track and field tradition of that old place there on 21st Street in Wichita.
Some updates across the state, Leon, in the third quarter. Nemaha Central, defending 2A state champion, they're up on 4A Eudora, a 2A school, putting it to a 4A school 13-6 right now on that close one. Riley County up 33-0 on Minneapolis. TMP out of Hayes 20 over Russell 20-6. Ottawa up 26-16 on Baldwin. Andover up on Arc City 14-0. Lawrence blanking Washburn Rural so far 42-0. The Red Demons of Dodge City up 21-0 on Liberal. Emporia up 22-6 on Atchison. Andale up 51-10 0 on Mulvane. And as we go to a Mammoth Sports Construction facility and that brand new turf, that R really pops. And we have Rock Creek and Rossville and what is an outstanding game here, Leon.
Provided to us by Dog Vision, Rossville. You're right. That's a big-time looking field right there as this game 30-26 is our score. Is it Rock Creek on top?
I'm trying to see what it says in the corner, but
yeah, I've lost
if I can get an update on that.
Lost my close-up monitor here, so now we're going to have a big play break into the near side here. And it looks like he is at the 20, the 10, and cruising in for that touchdown. Home of the Dogs, and the Dogs are on the board.
Yeah, Rossville runs such an impressive program. Coach Derek Hamas, former coach back in the day at Washburn Rural, and then, of course, you see what he did there, with Tucker Horak and all those guys a few years ago, 3 consecutive state titles. And, they're back in that conversation now as being one of those teams. And, of course, the guy that just carried it in was Tucker Horak's brother, Torrey, who is a junior. And, he's the type of guy that could be a 1,500 type guy passing and throwing this year. He's definitely a guy to look at. And Rossville, very good. Another player to look at Rossville today is number 10, Bo Reeves. He is 6'5", 210 with 4'5", 4'6" speed, multiple Division II offers, also an all-state baseball player. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that Rossville game in your top right corner. That is a very good Class 2A football team. And we talk about the war on 24. Well, that's only, 5, 6, 7 miles away, whatever that it is there. And both of those schools definitely contenders, Rossville and Silver Lake in Class 2A. But Rock Creek, I think, surprised some people tonight by keeping it close.
And back to lacrosse, where the Leopards of Lacrosse taking on Hoxie. Hoxie leading 30-14. Again, this is an 8-man football contest. Lacrosse just located straight south of Hayes. By the way, a game in Butler County, we're talking about in El Dorado, where Girard and Pratt were playing. El Dorado Wildcats are at Augusta tonight. El Dorado leading 14-7, a minute 50 left in that game. The El Dorado Wildcats and the Augusta Orioles, two neighboring schools, not very far apart in Butler County.
And it looks like that just went final. Pratt over Girard, 20-19 in that one. Some more score updates at scores in Kansas. Manhattan and Junction City, that is tied in the third quarter, 29-29. It is always like that. Buckland leading Kiowa County 44-34. Heston up on Hillsborough 32-26. Some fourth quarter scores. Thomas More Prep 20-6 over Russell. Nemaha Central extends its lead. They're up 21-6 on Eudora. Wellsville up 21-14 on Anderson County. And Caney Valley blanking Neota Shea 35-0 in the fourth quarter.
Isn't it amazing, Chet, because we're talking about Bishop Carroll's in that real battle in Wichita against Capon, and they had the real battle against Junction City last week, escaping, and now Junction City in the same situation in a real battle against their rival, Manhattan. So interesting for both those football teams, back-to-back tough games, and both going up against their big rivals tonight. As, again, we're watching Rock Creek and Rossville. And not sure we had a turnover there or an incomplete pass. Looks like they're going to hold on to the football. And you're watching Kansas Football Friday presented by Sports in Kansas as we check in on live action all across the state of Kansas and provide you with scores and more. Your scores at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try to keep up to date as well. I'm Leon Liebel along with Chet Coupland. You're watching Rock Creek right now at Rossville.
And this is the first game ever played on this brand new surface here, Leon, the Mammoth Sports Construction. Because, of course, last week, Rossville went on the road and won 42-6 against defending 1A state champion Centralia. So Rossville flexing its muscles last week and maybe trying to pull away here to extend this lead here, 37-26 against Rock Creek.
And the good folks from Mammoth, we talked to them at the Shrine Bowl, that you and I helped broadcast this summer. And Michael Bishop, the former K-State great quarterback, is part of their group. And saw him on Twitter the other day talking to some young athletes. And that was presented by Mammoth. It was great to visit with Michael Bishop. We haven't seen him in a long time. The runner-up for the Heisman Trophy in 1998, and simply one of the best football players in the history of Kansas State University, and is also a nominee for the College Football Hall of Fame. And I think we're going to find that out around the first of the year, who goes into the Hall of Fame next year. So certainly deserving, I believe.
And Rock Creek has made a little bit of an improvement, as you can tell, this year. The quarterback position is supposed to be pretty good this year, and Charlie Killingsworth, not the biggest guy out there, but certainly a guy to look at. I know that some of the guys came to some camps and combines. Caden Venduska was one of those guys that I thought was a pretty good player. Tyler Bailey, 270-pound kid on the lines, is another player to look at, number 58 for Rock Creek. I thought he was a pretty nice-looking player as well. So Rock Creek certainly has some talented guys, and you can see why they're in this football game tonight.
Just talk some Western Kansas football. I believe Connor Nichols on the line. Connor, are you there?
As we welcome in Connor Nickel, how is it going tonight in La Crosse, Kansas?
Well, it's been a great game. Hoxie's now up 30-32-14. La Crosse led until the final offensive play of the first half. Hoxie had 7 seconds to go, and they were at the La Crosse 23-yard line. Of course, Harlan Oboya, the 7-foot lineman, multiple Division I offers in 2 sports, a guard, lined up on the outside. La Crosse called a timeout. Then they lined up in the same formation again. Hoxie threw it deep. Harlan caught it at the 1, turned and barely got that ball across the line with 0.3 seconds to go. That gave Hoxie a 4-point lead. Hoxie scored in the first 3 plays of the second half. Since then, Gavin Tremblay picked off a pass, returned it down to the 1. Hoxie now up 30-14 with just over 10 to play in this game. They are driving again. Hoxie has really turned the game around here.
As far as Western Kansas football this year, we've been going into that Hayes game. You live in Hayes, Kansas, and man, Hayes High School, they have some dudes this year, Connor.
Yeah, it's been amazing to watch. Obviously, Chet, I've wrote a couple pieces for you. A lot of those players, I know them very, very well. Their families very, very, very well, and it's been really impressive to watch. I think that one point that maybe a lot of people don't know is when Coach Crow has stayed at a school longer than a year, such as Great Bend, he really improved Great Bend a couple years ago. We're seeing it now with Hayes again. Canucks got the amazing backstory with his family. Hoxie just scored on an amazing touchdown catch in the back of the end zone, when it now puts them up 36-14. But Canuck, of course, several Division I offers. He had missed his track season, 8th grade, freshman year, and sophomore year, the first 2 because he had gotten hurt. Sophomore year, of course, this past spring because of COVID. His backstory with his mom, his dad, and his stepdad, really just an amazing story. They're very, very well known in Hayes. Obviously, several others, Dryling, Frank Leos, grandson. Of course, Frank Leo coached Hayes High baseball for almost 40 years. He's got the baseball offer for Tennessee. Obviously, Myers, Gavin Myers. I've known Gavin Myers' family since Myers has probably been about 10 years old. It's really neat to see him emerge. Obviously, a tremendous linebacker, three FBS offers, and I think that out of the four, Gavin Hazelhorst is such an amazing story. Chad, as I wrote for you this summer, he was a former soccer player. I actually spoke with his junior high basketball coach this summer, and he said, you know what, we all thought Hazelhorst could be a tremendous athlete if he just started to play football. And then obviously he joined freshman year. They really couldn't find a spot for him. Coach Tony Crow put him on defense as a sophomore, a sack, and his first ever snap that year. And now he's maybe the best defensive end in Kansas.
Hey, Connor, I want to ask you, we were talking earlier about lacrosse. The Leopards are dropping down from 11-man to 8-man, and Chet brought this up. How difficult is that for a program to drop down to 8-man, to make that adjustment?
Well, I think it's really, really hard, and I think we're kind of seeing it too tonight. Lacrosse has, I believe it's eight penalties. Several of them alignment issues, false start issues, things like that. And they're just certain. And you can hear Coach Webster say several times about formations. One time, even Colby Stoll, their tremendous tailback, said something in that ilk too. You can tell that at times tonight, lacrosse is just off kilter some. Where of course Hoxie is very, very experienced in the 8-man. We've seen teams, notably St. Francis, Osborne especially, drop down to 8-man and be very, very good very, very quickly. But I think with lacrosse especially, they have got a new quarterback who, of course, did not play in week one with the COVID problems. Lacrosse has turned it over 3 times. They're just a little off. The talent is there, but some other of those formation-type things are just not quite there yet.
We've got quite a game going on. Go ahead.
Well, Connor, we appreciate you coming on tonight. Best of luck on covering the rest of the game, and we appreciate it, man.
Hey, certainly, fellas. As always, thank you so much, and we'll definitely talk again soon.
All right, Connor Nickel, thank you so much. Again, out there in lacrosse, covering the Hoxie Lacrosse Leopards 8-man game, and we got quite a battle, or quite a game, a high-scoring game with Rock Creek at Rossville. And extra point here after the touchdown. And, Chad, I'm going to have you help me out the score there because my monitor is not quite working right. 44 to
32. And Rossville leading in this one as the game goes to the right corner. Bo Reeves on that extra point. A lot of talent on this Rossville team. But, you got to give a shout-out to Rock Creek for really elevating their level of play tonight. And, got to give it to Great Bend as well on the screen, elevating their play a little bit. I know it's getting out of hand a little bit, but up 36 to 14 now. Hayes on Great Bend in this WAC matchup out in Great Bend.
That's one of those games where you kind of hats off to both teams. I mean, Hayes obviously very talented, very good football team. The Hayes High Indians, we've talked about they're outstanding individual players, but they got out to that early lead. Great Bend comes back and really had some momentum heading into the locker room at halftime. A lot of energy on their sideline. Then Hayes said, "Hey, wait a second, we're right here too," and they showed something of themselves coming back to stretch this advantage. So now we have a fumble on the play, and Hayes, I think, was able to hold on to that football. Hayes Indians in the all-white uniforms, trimmed in maroon and gold. Great Bend Panthers in the black and red.
Some fourth quarter scores around the state. Norton up on Ellis 35 to 14. Linden up on Pleasanton 72 to nothing. Mill Valley up 56 to 21 in DeSoto. Buckland up on Kiowa County 46 to 34. Burlingame up on Waverly 40-26. Burlington up on Santa Fe Trail 44-15. Clay Center up 35-6 over Jefferson West. St. John's Tipton up 34-26 over defending 8-man 2-state champion Osborne. TMP up on Russell 34-6. And, of course, other third-quarter scores, Clearwater up on Rose Hill 29-14. Baser-Linwood up 48-29 on Leavenworth. Eisenhower and Goddard up 28-27 on Salina Central. And Little River and Clifton Clyde, an outstanding 8-man matchup there. 36-28, Little River leads Clifton Clyde.
A tremendous matchup. And, again, we mentioned earlier, first time in 25 years those two schools have played each other. Once again, I want to thank Connor Nickel for joining us from out in La Crosse. And you told me before, Chet, that he knows everything about Western Kansas sports, but he knows who's related to everybody out there in the Hayes area as well. And he mentioned Frank Leo, the longtime Hayes High baseball coach, and also the longtime coach of the Hayes Larks. Most famous player he's ever coached for the Hayes Larks? Can you tell me that?
Oh, I don't know. You stumped me.
Albert Pujols.
Wow,
player.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Future Hall of Famer. He played for the Hayes Larks, and the Larks have had some outstanding teams. Have never quite won, though, the NBC World Series. They were in the finals a few years ago when they had the former Major League teams, the Kansas Stars, came to town, and that's who they ended up having to play for the championship. So, but Frank Leo, a legend out there in Hayes on the baseball diamond. As, again, we're watching Rock Creek and Rossville on that brand-new turf.
Got some more score updates. Fort Scott, which we mentioned earlier, it's kind of funny. They're in a doubleheader. The first game of the doubleheader, they're up on Independence 40-0. So maybe Independence can get them back next week. That's the end of the third quarter. Nat 1, Fort Scott leading Indy 40-0. Southeast Cherokee up 36-8 on Jayhawk Lynn late in the third quarter. Last look on that, looks like Colgan. And maybe we can go to that feed. I know we have that feed available from ESPN 100.7. St. Mary's Colgan and St. Michael Catholic out of Lee Summit are tied in the fourth quarter, 24-24. That was a game that was basically put on yesterday because both of those teams did not have an opponent this week. Coweta, Oklahoma, all over Frontenac, the game that we were at earlier. That's 34-13 in that one. Last look, Humboldt was leading Fredonia 30-26 down in southeast Kansas. So that's some updates for you out in southeast Kansas as we continue to get a lot of updates. Follow at Scores in Kansas. I have some more, Leon, before I come back to you, but final Mission Valley 20-6 over West Franklin. Republic County, 2 wins in a row. How about them? They've been impressive this year. I don't think anybody was really expecting that. Out of Belleville, of course, 52-6 over Ellsworth tonight. Valley Falls beating Pretty Prairie. That's quite the trip there for those 8-man programs. 54-48. Fourth quarter scores. May South, they are really flexing their muscles. Colin Shields is one of the best players in the state. 55-6.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, I just saw that score. Of course, May South, we were talking about Great Bend earlier. May South really took care of the Panthers last week. And Brent Pfeiffer's team looks like the Mavericks look like they could be for real as a second straight week. Big score there.
Yeah, and the thing is, Brent Pfeiffer, who has been the only head coach in the history of that program, has been known for what? He's been known for his defenses. And now all of a sudden, you got a lot of athletes that you can throw to in a really, in my opinion, a Division II scholarship at my AA quarterback, if not FCS type of quarterback in Colin Shields. He's been coming to our camps and combines for 3 years. The kid's legit, and if he would have got to camp at some places in person this summer, I think that we would see some bigger offers than he already has. So that's to see them 2-0, they're definitely a team that, we talked about 5A, and we didn't even mention them, Leon. They're in 5A. So May South is certainly in the conversation. Olathe West, they're in their third year of high school football. And they beat they're beating Olathe Northwest 20-0 at last look. Emporia up on Atchison 32-6. Tonganoxie and Lewisburg, that seems to be that's been a pretty good game tonight. Tongi beating Lewisburg 24-14. Caldwell up on South Haven 46-20. Cherryville up on Blue Stem 38-0. So Anderson County final just came in as well. That's a very good 3A football team with Logan Pegram, former Northern Illinois player for Jerry Kill back in the day, and for CJ Hamilton at Silver Lake. He's the head coach there. They won over Wellsville tonight, 22-0. 21. So a lot of finals coming in across the state. The score now, Newton scores on a 75-yard pass play. Derby leads 36. Newton 31 with 6:52. Wow. Leon, I don't think anybody had that score being that.
No, after Derby was dominated last week, and that surprising loss at Mill Valley, or at least the margin of victory was surprising, I think everybody thought, well, boy, Derby, look out for whoever they play next week because they're going to come out. But, boy, Newton giving the Panthers all they want tonight, 36-31, Derby on top. Hey, I want to go back. Oh, we got a new game to show you right now. This is St. Mary's Colgan, and you know much more about this game, Chad, again, as you were talking earlier.
Yeah, this is a game that, of course, wasn't supposed to happen, but Glena's team is in quarantine. Some of their players, now not all their players, and, of course, they couldn't play tonight. Galena and Colgan would have been a rivalry matchup tonight. I believe it's senior night down there. They play on, of course, this is Mammoth Sports Construction Facility as well, just the second week of that being in use. Colgan played last Thursday, lost to Girard, and, of course, they're playing St. Michael's out of Lee Summit tonight. So this is a matchup that wasn't supposed to happen. Colgan supposed to play Galena, and I'm not sure on this school from Missouri that they're playing, but you look at it right here, and it looks like St. Mary's is going to take over in this one with a big stop.
Big stop there, and a very enthusiastic PA announcer in the background, as you perhaps can hear, as that brand new field looks pretty good. And, hey, I want to go back to talking about Mays South a little bit of the Mavericks, a relatively new school. And you mentioned Brent Pfeiffer has been the only head coach there since that school opened. And for people not familiar with Mays South, it's really basically northwest Wichita. They're located on Tyler Road. Just south of them on Tyler Road is Wichita Northwest at 13th and Tyler. You go a few more blocks down Tyler Road to Central and Tyler, that's Bishop Carroll. Those are three of the best 5A programs in the state, all on the same road and very close together out there in West Wichita. I always thought that's pretty interesting and pretty amazing that all that talent is gathering out there in the northwest part of the city of Wichita.
Yeah, incredible and in close proximity for that. And you hear the voice in the background of that Colgan game. That's actually Eddie Lomshak of ESPN 100.7. He's actually the voice of the Pittsburgh State Gorillas, and he's not the voice of the Pittsburgh State Gorillas this year because they don't have football this fall. So he's been filling in and doing some Colgan games this fall, and Eddie, of course, has a show on the same station that I have down there, ESPN 100.7, 5 days a week, and he's been the longtime voice there since taking over from Tom Van Hoy back in the mid-2000s.
2-point conversion after the touchdown made it 44-38 and no good. It looks like Rossville has held against Rock Creek. Rock Creek trying to get the 2-point conversion, and man, that was big.
Yeah, and again, football game that we have.
Again, Chet, I mentioned the PA announcer just kind of off the cuff, and you know everything about him. It's amazing.
Well, I just happened to have a show on those stations down in southeast Kansas, but I could probably do that at a lot of places across the state. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's cool to see this game actually happening because I believe somebody on the staff of St. Michael is actually a Colgan alum, and that's kind of how this game was pieced together. And you look at the quarterback for St. Mary's Colgan, number 18 right there. That's a junior transfer from Toledo, Ohio. His name is Jake Wright. Well, why does that sound familiar? His dad is the brand new football coach at Pittsburgh State, which just replaced Tim Beck. So that is Coach Wright's son at the quarterback, number 18.
Going back to Wichita, we got an update from the Capon-Bishop Carroll game, and this is amazing. Capon has just completed, we talked about them running the football, they just completed a long pass inside Carroll territory, less than 2 minutes to go in this game. It was 4th and 3 when they came up with this long pass play, as Capon, I believe, is trailing by a touchdown in the game, and the Crusaders trying to come up with a last minute come from behind victory. We'll keep you up to date on that one. Wow. Excitement there again at Bishop Carroll Family Stadium for the second straight week.
Incredible. And I got an incredible update for you as well. And I know they've won a couple state titles, but Scott City has kind of always had their number in recent memory. How about Kent Teeter and Holcomb? They're winning 30-7 over Scott City in the fourth quarter. So that's a game that really kind of stood out to me. Of course, Lawrence High and Devin Neal, they are flexing their muscles 56-7 tonight over Washburn Rural. We, of course, saw Holton all over Chapman on our screen, 55-13. Andale, 63-0 over Mulvane. So really some teams right out of the gate have been very impressive across the state of Kansas.
It is amazing. And by the way, you mentioned Pittsburgh State, no football for them. I kind of forgot about that, the MIAA not playing, and always a fun league to watch and follow with Fort Hays State and Washburn, Emporia State, and Pittsburgh State. But again, it's the times we're living in right now, and we have to adjust. And thankfully, though, we are watching some high school football for the second week in a row in the state of Kansas as you are watching Kansas Football Friday presented by Sports in Kansas as we head back to Rossville, the big R in the middle of that brand new field. Even like the numbers, the yard markers are a little cool looking there on that new Mammoth field. Rossville against Rock Creek. A high scoring game, 44-38. Long pass down the far sideline, incomplete.
Yeah, Torrey Horak, the quarterback, of course, he is a junior, a kid that's a multiple sport athlete, a dual threat, probably more so a runner than a passer. And his brother, the first player in Kansas high school history, which we just had on Sports. And there's a big guy running for a touchdown in Colgan. It looks like Bevilacqua with the statement score there for Colgan, number 35. And it looks like it was a breakaway run. He's about a 230, 240-pounder there with a nice score. But back to the Horak kid, Tucker, that's now at Pittsburgh State. We had him on Sports in Kansas All Access with Bethany Bowman last week, and he's a kid that's supposed to be playing his senior year right now at Pittsburgh State, and it's not happening because of this, and, it's kind of up in limbo. I mean, is there going to be a scholarship next year for some of these kids? How are they going to recruit? They're not going to play a full football season in the spring. What's the eligibility going to be like? So it's going to be weird, but Tucker played at Rossville. He didn't have that turf to play on, but he does have the Mammoth turf to play on at Pittsburgh State in their brand new facility. But he was the first player in Kansas history, Leon, to rush for 2,000 and pass for 2,000. And I'm not talking about in a career. I'm talking about in the same season. You know how hard that is to do? I don't care what level it is. How crazy is that to do in the same season?
As we head back again, here's Great Bend and Hayes. This game's still continuing as the Hayes High Indians, just as we get there, appear to score another touchdown and going to win going away against Great Bend. Hayes, some huge developments at Bishop Carroll in Wichita. We mentioned Capon had that long pass play to get deep into Carroll territory. The very next play, quarterback keeper fumbled the football. Carroll recovers. Bishop Carroll will go on to win it 31-28 over Capon to continue that long winning streak over their arch rival from the east side of Wichita, and a loss. First loss for head coach Weston Schartz in his new position as the head coach at Capon. So he'll drop to 1-1, and Bishop Carroll for the second straight week holds on in the final seconds to win it and remain unbeaten at 2-0.
And what a fight put up tonight by Capon. I don't think a lot of people think they expected the game to be, probably a decent game, but I don't think anybody had it being a thrilling game. That must be much improved from a year ago, and pretty incredible to see that. And it's awesome to see in that rivalry type matchup because you know what, that's just going to add so much more to next year. So really cool to see Coach Schartz and company off to a good start this year. Despite the loss tonight, they showed up and were ready to play.
Yeah, it's a heartbreaking one, and this information being provided by Taylor Eldridge of the Wichita Eagle, and he's also has some video here, and we're going to credit Hayden Sage that I am checking out on Twitter. And that fumble, if we had replay in high school football, he may have been down, but I'm not sure. I did not seeing it in slow motion, but it looked like his knees may have been down. But regardless, it was ruled a fumble. Bishop Carroll recovers and will win it 31-28. Again, you're watching right now at Rossville, Rock Creek, number 1 Rossville in Class 2A, leading 44-38.
Nemaha Central tonight, Class 2A state champion. They lost on a field goal last week to Holton, the very good Holton team that we saw tonight. Blast Chapman, that gives you an idea how good Holton is. Nemaha Central goes to Eudora, a Class 4A opponent that's more than double their size, and beats them 36-6 tonight. So shout out to Coach Warren Seitz and Nemaha Central, former Mizzou quarterback, played in the NFL for a little bit, and of course their first state title. That Nemaha Central story is pretty interesting, Leon, because in 2014 was the first year of the school. It's, of course, a consolidation between Nemaha Valley, which had some success in multiple sports, and then Baileyville B&B. So much success. How difficult do you think that was at first to, for your school to close, and then you have to go to a new school and consolidate with maybe people that you don't really like? Well, it's certainly benefited those schools because now they got their first ever state title. Pretty cool story.
Yeah, and that's happened a lot across the state of Kansas when these schools have consolidated. Some arch rivals have had to join each other. And I know that goes way back to the 1960s when some small schools joined forces. I've been told some stories how, the school board meetings were pretty heated about colors of the team, mascots. We're not using your colors. We're not, we can't do this. We're going to be brand new, and then eventually, after a year or two, everybody's on the same page. But that's always a difficult adjustment for these small towns, especially to join up with the teams that they've been going head to head for years. I know there's a lot of stories like that out in western Kansas. By the way, the Bishop Carroll has now defeated Cape in 21 straight games. That streak.
Wow.
So that goes back to the 1990s. I think they had a couple of those games, too, in the playoffs as well. As Rossville moving the football here, trying to add to their lead. Well, this has just been a really high-scoring affair, obviously. 44-38. As clock running down, they're probably just going to run out the clock here.
And a shout-out to the Plainsmen, not the Prairie Dogs, but the Plainsmen of Oakley. Their second consecutive win in the MCL. Plainville, always a contender. I know they were hit heavy by graduation, of course, with losing Jared Casey and Jordan Fennessy to college programs. But Oakley winning the game tonight against Plainville 10-7.
Wow.
Shout out there to them and Coach Hennick. Ethan Abel, a really good running back for them. Eric Kane, a quarterback and an all-state wrestler. Did the Power of Social Media tour out there this past year and got to meet some people within their administration. And I know they've really been working hard in the weight room and have been on the other side of things the last couple of years. So it's nice to see a program like that with a step in the right direction. 2-0, the Oakley Plainsmen.
Hayes High leading Great Bend 43-14. That's on your screen right now. The Indians over the Great Bend Panthers. You're watching Kansas Football Friday, presented by Sports in Kansas. We're back with more right after this.
So, what is love?
Love is being independent.
Love is dancing.
At Shriners Hospital for Children, love is a new smile.
At Shriners Hospitals for Children, love is caring for a child regardless of the family's ability to pay. Learn how you can send your love to the rescue at lovetotherescue.org.
What rhymes with great?
Participate.
Where does greatness start?
Here, in the classroom.
On the stage.
In the pool.
On the field.
Where will your greatness take you?
To better grades.
To more friends.
Yeah! Be great.
Participate!
I've pretty much been in the car business my whole life. I've been here at Lewis Chevrolet since 2016. I enjoy the car business because I like seeing the face of a happy customer when they take the keys to their new car, or maybe their first car. It makes me feel good to be a part of that. I like taking care of folks and seeing repeat customers year after year. I'm Todd Rostetter, General Manager of Lewis Chevrolet, and I look forward to helping you.
And back to Kansas Football Friday. I'm Leon Liebel along with Chet Copeland from Sports in Kansas as we bring you highlights, live action, much more, scores all across the state of Kansas. Week number 2, and what have we digested after 2 weeks now of high school football in the state of Kansas, Chet?
I think we've digested that Mill Valley is very good. They won 70-21 over DeSoto tonight.
Wow.
That's a rivalry matchup. DeSoto is very good this year, very good last year. Derby, they dominated last week. I think that really jumps off the page to me. I mean, even looking at this game right now, I think Rossville is a team that's a contender. I think it is a surprise that the game's a little bit closer in this one. Other things that I've seen across the state, besides a 7-foot guy catching a pass and a touchdown tonight, that was pretty cool as well. Holcomb's win over Scott City. I got to give a shout out to Coach Teeter, a friend of mine out there in Western Kansas. They won 30-13 against Scott City tonight, and that's some tough football out there in the GWAC. We know there's going to be Class 3A contenders within that. So certainly an awesome night for some football. Republic County is another one of those schools this year that off to a 2-0 start. We talked about Oakley being one of those schools, Anderson County, Andale in Class 3A. Man, they're just jumping all over people. And, man, Lawrence in 6A, they must be really, really good. And I don't know when it is, but I'm pretty sure I have to check the schedules. Lawrence and Mill Valley play each other this year, and that's going to be one heck of a football game.
No, it certainly will be. And the Chesty Lions, one of the greatest programs in the history of Kansas, have not won a state championship since the city broke up into 2 high schools, city of Lawrence, when Free State was created. But Lawrence has been competitive all along, but it looks like the Lions may be back as one of the top teams in Class 6A. Hey, Chet, here's a score that kind of jumped out at me. I don't know if you mentioned it before, but 8-man Division I, Hill City beats Nest City 7-6. That is a very low-scoring defensive battle, especially for 8-man football. And, of course, Hill City, your favorite mascot, one of your favorites across this great state. The Ringnecks.
Yeah, the Ringnecks, and, yeah, that's like a baseball score there, Leon, to see that low of a score. And that type of game, maybe usually it's a 50-33 or an 88-66, or sometimes, for that matter, we've seen games in the 90s before. So there's some wild stuff happening. It's great to have a week 2 of football in across the Sunflower State. We're going to have a ton of stuff up for you all night at Sports in Kansas. Recaps tomorrow. I know Connor Nickel works hard on that to kind of do our impressions of what happened on Friday night because, of course, we got to dive into those stats and what impressed us and who had those big nights across the Sunflower State. We'll have those up first thing in the morning. All the final scores are coming in as well at Scores in Kansas on Twitter. And then, of course, we'll keep you updated with some videos and some things like that submitted across the state. So if you have some cool stuff across the state, want to be featured on our Instagram or things like that, I've opened up our DMs before on an Instagram on a Saturday, and we've had over 1,000 sometimes. We get so many pictures sent in on a Friday night across the state. So we'll be posting those all weekend across our Instagram, Sports in Kansas, powered by our great partners over at Mammoth Sports Construction.
Chet, thank you very much. It's been fun again as we have week number 2 pretty much wrapped up across the state of Kansas. You've been watching Kansas Football Friday as we check in on all the live action and highlights and much more for you. And we'll continue this next week. And again, this Kansas Football Friday presented by Sports in Kansas. I'm Leon Liebel for Chet Copeland, our producer-director Mike Nelson. I also want to thank Connor Nickel and Sean Fry for dropping in with their reports from across the state, southeast Kansas and western Kansas. We hope you have a good night. We hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you next week right here on Kansas Football Friday.
My daughter was diagnosed with scoliosis.
Connor's right leg was shorter than the left.
Her issues were so rare.
I wanted a doctor who's experienced at treating my child's exact condition.
That's why we went to Shriners Hospitals for Children.
These doctors develop the most advanced procedures.
They do so much research.
With some of the most innovative doctors in the world.
And they put all their best thinking, all their love into healing my child.
And they did it, regardless of our ability to pay.
My daughter is who she is today because of Shriners Hospitals for Children.
I'm Tom Staples. I'm the general manager of Lewis Ford of Dodge City. I've worked for the Lewis family for over 20 years. I started in the service department in Hayes, became a service manager, and now I'm a general manager here in Dodge City. I like working for Lewis because the customer always comes first. Take care of the customer and they will take care of you. I'm Tom Staples, general manager of Lewis Ford of Dodge City, and I look forward to taking care of you.